Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Game Informer Show. I'm Ben Hansen, joined by Joe Juba.
Hello.
And Kimberly Wallace.
Hey.
Fresh, back from Japan.
Yeah.
Bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. Here we go. We're talking about a lot of stuff today. We're talking about Death Stranding. Joe,
Yeah.
you visited Kojima Productions?
I did, yeah.
This is insane. This is why I like this podcast. Okay, we'll talk about that. Project Resistance, which is the new Resident Evil game. Somebody played that?
Yeah, hands-on.
That's amazing. Nioh 2, then, of course, obligatory Final Fantasy VII remake segment, which will be on this podcast till the end of time, I believe. Literally, actually. Let's see, Yakuza 7, NHL 20, Kim, you reviewed.
Yes.
That's very exciting. Then we'll have a brief conversation about Link's Awakening, since that's actually coming out this week, and Cork has a review score, all that fun stuff. Other things squeezed in there, and then community emails. That'll be a hoot. I've only copied and pasted 3 of them, but one of them is brilliant. This community is so brilliant. Then back half of the show, here's something weird. So this is an interview with Infinity Ward about Modern Warfare, but not in the way you'd think, because this is actually audio that I recorded on my phone while we were at the studio talking to Joel Emsley, Jeffrey Smith, and Mark Grigsby.
Didn't you have your cameras there?
Yeah, but you know how cover story trips go, where it's this was a written interview where it was Shay talking about Call of Duty 4, developing that game because this team worked on that, then they left and went to Respawn, then came back to Infinity Ward.
Right. So this isn't you slyly recording on your phone while...
No, I was the backup recording and then realized God, I love this conversation so much, especially them talking about going to Respawn and breaking everyone's heart, and then breaking everyone's heart at Respawn and coming back. It's such a weird, raw story from the video game industry, and they were so honest and so sweet. And it's this audio should get out there in some form. So we're going to just play audio from this, and I think it's going to be weird for this podcast because you guys know what it's like. When there's a video interview versus an audio-only interview, or an interview written on a cover story trip, everything is so much slower and more relaxed for those written interviews.
Yeah.
And so hearing that type of interview in video form or podcast form, I think it might be jarring for people. We're this sounds slow and awkward, but it's hey, that's reality, everybody. Cover story trips are slow and awkward. So please enjoy it. Also, we should talk about that. They talk about developing Call of Duty 4 a lot. We don't talk a lot about other people in that studio, but obviously, this was just a fraction of that team. You can't talk about developing Call of Duty 4 without talking about Jason West, Vincent Pella, and everybody else involved. The audio quality, it should be all right. It was in their studio, so it's going to be a little bit different, and some people will be quieter, but I tried to do as much in post as I could.
For our video viewers, will you be sitting at the table as it's airing?
Yeah, I'm just going to be nodding along like it's my favorite pop song. No, so we just put, Joe, you know how podcasts work. We're going to put some Call of Duty gamelay in there, yada, yada, yada.
Okay.
just to have something visual, but it's a weird one, and I'm curious to see what the reaction is because I'm in love with it just because it is so bizarre. Let's see, other things to tidy up real quick. Reiner reviewed Griefball. Finally got the review score out there, 7.25. Dan Tack wanted to communicate to everyone in the world, especially YouTube people. He's been playing more Borderlands 3, and he's hotter on it now. He really enjoys it. He sent me over a clip of a boss fight where you fight Penn and Teller, because I'm a big Penn and Teller fan.
Yeah.
Seemed fun.
Is it human Penn and Teller, or are they some big weird mutants or something?
They're slightly modified. They're not monsters, but they're, Borderlands up and all that stuff. Their names are, what is it? It's Pain and something. I forget the Teller name, but then let's see. Kato reviewed NBA 2K20. Those are always good. He gave it an 8.5. Reviews on the site. Matt Miller's in the process right now of reviewing Daemon Ex Machina. I asked for his summary, and get the bleep button ready, Leo. Miller, who's a very calm man, said Daemon Ex Machina is a shitty game that badly incorporates anime tropes with very, very, very boring combat. He really does not like that game.
So no final review score on that quite yet, but if you were thinking about buying it, don't.
It's wild that I feel like Nintendo's been talking about it maybe just longer than Astral Chain, but it feels like they've given it as much of a push as they did Astral Chain. And it's so sad to know that this game is not shaping up, and Astral Chain it seems like everybody loves.
Yeah.
Have you played Astral Chain yet, Joe?
Not yet. I actually just got it, so start it pretty soon here.
I'm in the middle of it now, and if you don't like it, I will eat my own face off. It is the most Joe Juba-ass game. It is impossible that you won't like this thing.
I'm looking forward to starting it.
Okay, great. Kim, what have you been playing lately?
I actually started Astral Chain before I went on this trip.
Oh, really? What'd you think?
I like it so far, but I'm still pretty early in. I got busy with TGS stuff.
That whole thing.
Yeah, that whole thing. And then reviewing NHL 20. So.
Oh, yeah.
So lots of NHL.
Another review is WoW Classic.
Oh, yeah. What did Dan give that?
Which he ended up giving it a 9, I think.
Oh, Jesus.
Which, yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's kind of on the one hand weird to review what is an old game, but at the same time, like I think there's a lot of interesting context there in terms of like calling out what was actually good about the old game, and even though that there are like some conveniences that it is lost by jumping back that far.
Right.
At the same time, it also kind of captures the heart of what a lot of MMO, like what really got MMO players into the genre in the first place, and there's something that seems really like fun about that.
Was there a lot of debate about whether or not to slap a number on there?
Yeah, we talked about it a lot, but yeah, that's where we landed on doing it.
Yeah,
I think partially just because so many people are playing it and paying attention to it, and it's like people want to know like how does this hold up, and I think that's a fair question.
Yeah, it's nice to see it getting so popular again. We talked about it months ago with the beta for like 40 minutes with Dan Tack and Andy McNamara. So if you're a new listener or viewer, you can go back and find that one because there's a lot of the same beats, I think, of like what makes it unique to go back to and stuff.
Yeah.
How was TGS overall, folks?
Fun.
Fun?
Yeah, it was a good show.
Yeah.
It felt like, so I was there in 2015 maybe, and I feel like that was like the start of a little bit of like a Japanese development renaissance, and now it's at the point where it's like, hey, there's so many solid games coming out of Japan these days. They've had a real revival. Does it feel like the show has been energized from that, Kim? You've been going for so many years now.
The show feels like it's still in the same place that it was
really?
back then. Yeah, I mean, they had more to talk of. There's more to talk about and more going on this year. But it always feels like TGS boils down to like 2 or 3 big games, and then that show floor gets more and more vacant each year, which makes me sad, but like that's the reality of it. But it's still like a show that has so much enthusiasm, passion, and love behind it that's kind of what makes it what it is, you know, rather than like all the flashy stuff, which there's plenty of flash on the show floor.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. But yeah, it just feels like comparable to like every year I go, it still feels like it's in the same place.
Does it still have that weird aspect? I remember the year I was there, I think it was like they had some Vita game and you like something about you stuck your hands inside of a giant statue's boobies or something to play it. Is it still the booby factor off the charts over there?
Wow, what a question.
That wasn't like I walked around the show floor and like took a bunch of pictures. You can actually like I put a gallery online if you want to see what TGS looks like, but I think from year to year you can still find things like that, but it's like that was particularly egregious that one time.
Okay,
but you know there's always the weird like oh, here's a scantily clad anime lady standing around,
right?
You know,
right?
Kind of
okay, it's still Japanese.
There's
games.
virtual boyfriend there.
What does that mean?
You can have a virtual boyfriend.
Is that a game?
Like VR, virtual boyfriend.
Really?
It had a long line, too. Like, it was very popular.
Do you get to choose boyfriend or girlfriend? It's like, no, you buy this game, you're locked in.
You're locked into a boyfriend.
It's boyfriend. Except I also saw a sign that said virtual boyfriend and it just had a dog on it. So
yeah, that was the thing that was what attracted me. I was like, oh, there's that dog. That dog is really cute. What is that? Oh, the virtual boyfriend. Okay.
Man's
Maybe
best
it's not what I
friend
thought.
indeed.
Yeah.
What was the game like? Does he just like hang out and
I looked a little bit about
I didn't wait in line for it.
I didn't wait in line for it either. I just watched as people were interacting with the creepy, like it just was creepy to me to watch.
It's actually weird. I checked out your photo gallery, Joe. I thought it was weird and inappropriate where it was just several photos of you getting shorter and shorter in line, like the line getting shorter as you waited in the virtual boyfriend line.
Yeah. That's the whole gallery. It's just and now I'm 20th in line.
Then you get to first and go psych and then don't go. That's lame. Virtual. Let's start with the biggie, which maybe doesn't relate to the show overall. And even though Final Fantasy VII is probably the game of the show, let's just pretend this is the biggie because I think it's the most interesting. Death Stranding.
Yeah.
I mean, it had a big presence at the show. It had those, what is it? Presentations. During the show. So
those,
it was there.
Well, just to be clear, I mean, it seems like games of the show, what, 7 number 1, Death Stranding number 2? Or is Yakuza 7 bigger there than I thought?
You know, I mean, I think I would probably put Death Stranding maybe at number 1.
Really?
Personally. Well, partially because... So Death Stranding had 2 live presentations. One on Thursday and one on Saturday. And I think there was a lot more buzz around that just because it was so much more mysterious. And Final Fantasy VII, they had the demo there that they had at E3. So it's like that aspect of it I think was familiar. They released a new trailer, but their presentation for it didn't come until Saturday afternoon, until like the public day.
Oh, okay.
So 2 days of TGS had already kind of happened before any new FF7 info.
And they had like the recreated Midgar stuff there, I'd imagine, on the show floor.
Yeah.
Took a photo on the bike, that type of thing.
Exactly. So until the new stuff on Saturday, a lot of FF7 felt like I mean, it still looks great, by the way.
Yeah.
And that new
That trailer
which
was awesome.
I know you talked about on the podcast already.
Red
but
hot.
that new trailer is great. But as far as like feeling on the show floor, I think Death Stranding was the one that had like the anticipation around it.
Yeah. Was there cool stuff from Death Stranding on the show floor, like a big set or anything like that?
No, it was just like at the Sony like live stage.
Okay.
But people started lining up. Like it started at the presentation started at 3:30, I think, and I got there at 3, and there were already people like sitting down front row waiting for it all to start. So yeah, it was a big crowd when that was going down.
So Kojima showed like 50 minutes or so of gameplay for Death Stranding, which is awesome. He said it was like a third or like halfway through the game, stuff like that. And they cut around some spoilers here and there. But it's funny because he's like, don't look at the items because there might be spoilers in the items. Like, I don't know what that means. I'm sure the internet won't look at that part of the screen, Kojima.
It's not even that spoilery. It's like I think some of the stuff in item descriptions that talks about like Sam's blood and his like bodily fluids being damaging to the BTs.
All right.
So
Video games are cool. And so I was hesitating. I'm like, I think this might be the line that I don't want to cross, and I want to go in a little more surprise for Death Stranding. Like I've been clawing for details. This might be where I tap out. But then last night I was like, F it. I'm going to watch this whole thing just so we can talk about it on the podcast. I'm so glad I did.
Yeah.
It is fascinating. And it is a little bit more of that kind of, well, there's kind of a boss fight in there, but a lot of it is just more focusing on the slow exploration. Literally like, hey, this is how you stack your pack. So it has optimized, you have to balance. It's just so small, like the tiny details of actually traversing the world and kind of what the loops will be that's compelling here.
exactly. And if you wanted to tap out on this game, I'd say like watch the TGS stuff and then tap out. Because like I think the TGS presentations are the ones that we got a taste of it at Gamescom, like we saw some gameplay, but I think now there is finally enough information to say like that you will generally understand what kind of game it is. This is the structure, this is the flow, this is what you're trying to do. This is how this game like will feel.
Right. And it's funny to hear Kojima shift from, being a little bit cryptic, teasing people with a lot of mysterious trailers. And then I feel like at TGS, I'm so glad I watched the presentation too, just being a fan of Kojima, because you can see him shift into selling mode, right? Like he realizes like, we got to rip open this kimono here, everybody. So he's like, hey, this game is about connections. Like, let me be very clear about what this is. He still talks about it being a Strand game, but he had some line that really made me laugh. Oh, yeah, where he's like showing the demo and then he's talking to the PlayStation lady on stage there. And he's like, now that you understand the chiral network, you can understand the meaning of Strand game. Like he's very clear, like this is why it's a Strand game. This is what I mean by Strand game. He's just so ready to push exactly what this game is at this point, which is refreshing.
Yeah.
Which is also, I think it's probably refreshing for him too, though, because at least like during the interview that I had with him, he talks about how his core concept for this game really has not changed since its inception. Right?
Oh, okay. Let's get into this a little bit.
Well, no. But what I want to get to, what I guess I want to say about it first, though, is the idea that like he's known how all of this is going to work and how he wants it to come together, but just hasn't been able to talk about it until now.
Yeah.
50 days or whatever before the game actually comes out.
And I feel like Mark Cerny, even maybe 2017, the producer on the game, he said something like, look, I know these trailers are weird, but trust me, I've played like 5 hours of the game and it makes complete sense here. It's not that strange after all.
Yeah.
And it turns out what the game is, it's a game about death consuming the world, and the only hope for life is giving likes to people. Okay, got it. reconnecting the world and just constantly dishing out social media-esque likes to other players who are kind of sort of leaving their impact on your game.
I mean, that's where we're at as a society right now, right?
If you really think about it.
Like. Good comment, Kim.
Remember to like this video on YouTube. Those analytics really help us out. We'll leave a ladder in your lawn if you like it enough, or whatever the hell. What did you think about the gameplay demo?
Like I said, like to finally see it in action and feel like I get this game now.
Yeah.
I think that's really what makes me happy about it. Like that was the standout. I'm looking forward to playing it. And I mean, I think we've said before too, like I'm still not 100% sure that like whether or not I'm going to like this game,
Yeah.
but it is fascinating to me.
Yes.
Like I can't wait to play it, even if I don't enjoy it.
I had a weird reaction where I'm obviously excited for it, and I understand the gameplay, and it's like, okay, I don't know if this is really for me. And then watching that gameplay, it's like, well, this is exactly for me. Some weird game, obviously, okay, that's what everyone's saying for years, but just slowly managing your inventory, stacking your things up right, balancing as you walk across this world, and then just long stretches of traversal, stopping every once in a while to give yourself a massage, to play a harmonica for your little baby in a tank, and just going on your journey and just exploring with some light social elements of seeing what's coming in the online. Leo, did you watch this gameplay?
I skimmed through it.
Okay. Did you have a reaction? Because this seems up your alley, right?
I'm with you, yeah. It seems like weird and meditative in a way that is intriguing to me.
Yes, I'm so much more confident that I'm going to love this game based on that gameplay, even though I think for a lot of people it did come across as stranger maybe than they were expecting.
Yeah, and I fell in the very similar boat where it's like I played it and I am optimistic. Like I think this is for me.
Right. But could you...
Joke's on you.
Yeah. But you was definitely framing it for like, this is weird, this is different, it's a slow start, you're all probably going to hate it for a while, but stick with it, right? That seems to be the overall message at this point, which is
I don't think the message is you're going to hate it for a while. I think I think the message is this game and like the process will be unfamiliar.
Right.
And it's going to take some getting used to.
Yes, he said something about, in the interview, I don't think I copied and pasted this bit, but talking about how it's going to take a while before the real reception's out there. A little bit of saying like, you know, it's going to be a strange game. When I introduced a stealth game, people weren't understanding what they were looking at. And so it takes a while for the world to process what he considers something so new, which is this Strand game.
Yeah.
Which basically just means, hey, some people online, they're going to pop into your world. It's more Dark Souls-y than I expected, even like in that boss fight, right? Where then he sent up the flare essentially, and then like a weird white version of Norman Reedus came in, and it was another player's character that was helping you out.
Yeah.
Although I was unsure if they were actually literally controlling.
I didn't have time to ask that question. There were a lot of questions that I had on I had like pages of things that I wanted to ask him about.
Right.
And you know, with the time, you only have so much time. And but yeah, I mean, that was one thing I was wondering about too. Though he did repeatedly, or he has said that like you're not seeing other players' faces, right? And like there's kind of a point about you not interacting with them directly.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess I would be surprised if it were Dark Souls in that sense, where it's like, yep, it's just me and my buddy teaming up. We're both here at the same time doing the same thing.
Right.
But what the alternative is, I guess I don't fully understand either.
Right. And so it seems like primarily you'll just be wandering the world and you'll see a ladder or you'll see a bridge that people made, because apparently rivers are deadly in this game, so you can literally make a little bit of a bridge over a river, or you can see like a rest station and it'll say somebody's username. And I'm curious how they instance that out, like if it can prioritize your friends list or how it'll work.
Yeah, I mean, there were like I said, I had a lot of questions, and there was a part of me that was hesitant. Like I felt like the conversation was going pretty well, and then he was giving some like very interesting insight about the game, and I was hesitant to veer in the direction of, hey, why don't you become an instruction manual to me about this game here for a second, right? So like there are things like that I don't fully get, but it would seem that it makes sense that they have ways of detecting like where you are in the game and who your friends are and what the most popular items are, like what the most liked items are in the world, right? So it's like things like the game can probably detect like, okay, I'm starting at the East Coast. I need to go to the West Coast. It's not just going to populate bridges and ladders and cities and everything all the way immediately, because then if you pick up the game like 2 weeks after it launches, it's already done.
Yeah.
Right? You're just like doing a beeline across everyone else's ladders.
Yeah.
So
Just one long ladder across the world.
So I'm sure that that's just part of the technology that they're figuring out, is how it pulls from other worlds, how much it pulls, and what it pulls.
I don't understand the messaging. I believe it's in your interview, which is up on GameInformer.com, where he says, like, you know how in most open worlds they stop you, there's barriers. In this game, there are no barriers. Mm-hmm. Is he implying that it's like procedural, or did they just create a world that's so big that effectively it'll feel like there are no real barriers to you just wandering off into the middle of nowhere?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's the latter, like the idea of that you're essentially, I think, just bound by the water, bound by the coasts, or whatever.
Oh, because you think it's like a miniature version, but it's all there, like a shrunk down version of.
I mean,
the
okay,
United
like
States?
think of something, for instance, like open world. You're playing Skyrim.
Yeah.
Eventually, you get to the end of that map, and I know modders have like broken the boundaries of it. But as open world as Skyrim is, like you get to the edge, and even though it seems like you should be able to go further, you can't. Or in games like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, where it's like, oh, I should be able to go over here, except you can't.
Right, but how do you think they're getting around that?
That's what I'm saying. Is I don't think they are. I think that what he's saying, where you can go anywhere. I guess I don't see a way to interpret that any other way than that you could just like anywhere you can see, you can go.
It'll just loop the terrain some way. Sort of, I don't know. There's still some questions, even after.
Well, I mean, the world is a finite place. I mean, you can't go.
I understand that, but it's not like, I don't think it's procedural tech. I think you would have said that at some point by now, right?
I don't understand what you mean by why would it need to be procedural?
Because they can't have artists making land that's literally the size of northern Canada. Joe is shrugging for the audio listeners. We'll see. Overall, I just cannot fathom that this game has been effectively made within 3 years. It seems bonkers. Like that's literally like the development time of like Pokemon Sword and Shield. You know what I mean? It's just mind-blowing. And I'm sure those developers are destroying themselves in a lot of ways to get this done. He may even made some reference to like, oh, this is kind of like peak development right now. We're locking things down. You need to go back to the office after this gameplay demo up on the TGS stage even.
Yeah. Well, and he's mentioned too, I think it was in a different interview, that one of the reasons that MGS5 took as long as it did was because like they had to make their engine.
Right.
But they didn't in this one. They're using the Guerrilla Games Decima engine.
They still had to learn a new engine. Normally that's a real challenge. Yeah.
But still, I mean...
Easier than making one.
Yeah.
Right. Can you tell us the story of going to the studio?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's probably not a lot what's the way to say it? Like, I didn't see much of the studio.
Just walk us through. Just regale us. Tell us what his hand felt like when you shook it.
You walk in. I mean, if you can see, there's a picture of me on our Instagram account of in the entryway. So we're in front of the like Luden statue,
where everybody has taken a photo with the exact same slightly green lighting. Visited the studio.
I was in that lighting.
Wow.
It's actually it's really cool though, because you step in that area. It's a very long hallway. Mm-hmm. And it's got that, kind of like that real stark lighting going on.
Yeah.
The Ludens thing in there, it feels like you're walking into like a space station, even without this sort of like astronaut standing in the middle of the room.
Airlock.
Yeah. But, so it has that kind of like space station feel to it, but then we walk through the other side, and then that's basically where my time in the studio, like that's as far as I got. There are a couple meeting rooms that we
really?
that we did our interviews in. So
wow.
I got to see that that entryway, and it's pretty cool.
And did you get to play the game or see the game or anything there?
No, I mean I didn't get to do any like hands-on stuff or anything like that.
Okay. Did you see any developers? Did they look tired?
No.
Okay. How was Kojima's tone throughout the interview?
He was surprisingly like friendly, and I guess there's part of me. I interviewed him before years ago.
For Death Stranding.
No. Like for the interview section of our magazine.
Oh,
so
I
this
see.
would have been back in like, I don't know, probably like 2006 or 2007.
And that's the only time you've met him?
Yeah, it's the only time I've met him in like face to face.
Oh, really? Okay.
I've seen him at events and stuff before.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Like that's so.
And I remember you went to like the Koji Pro LA opening. I assumed he was there.
Exactly.
but
Yeah, he was, but
Okay.
I didn't walk up and shake his hand and say like
in the middle of his speech.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So my memory of him was being in that initial interview was being sort of like soft spoken and very precise and he just seemed very like passionate and friendly in this newer one. So
nice.
it's sort of like it sort of ran counter to the way that I had expected. When you have sort of like an industry legend like him, you almost expect him to sort of sit back and stroke his chin and say something profound. And it was just it just felt very, I don't know, he was very animated and friendly.
Which is helpful because your interview on the site, it can come across, I love it. It's a great interview, but I feel like at times it can come across a little bit like, how much is this guy up his own butt here? Like, how much is he, you know?
When you read that interview, you should not read it as him like some aloof genius proclaiming from a throne, right? We were just, it's like some dude sitting at a table, just like talking about a game that he seems very excited about.
Just two cool bros hanging out at the table.
Take that, Jeff Keighley.
BFFs now.
Were you flattered when he said, quote, I can FaceTime you anytime?
I was like, yeah, you want my number?
So right now, if I see your cup, I can phone you and say, hey, what's this cup for?
Yeah.
But in Death Stranding, you can't.
Yeah.
You have to think about it.
Yeah. So you say that to make it sound
I
silly.
know,
but
exactly.
It's actually part of a really interesting answer.
Please expand on that.
Because like what he's talking about is sort of the feeling of communication in the game.
Yes.
Which a lot of times when you're communicating with other players in like modern games, you're just on chat talking back and forth and like, hey, look what I did. Like we're fighting a boss right now.
Yeah.
And what he was drawing a parallel to was the idea of like say 100 years ago in a war, a husband is like writing a letter to his wife and it's like, well, there's a battle coming tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to survive.
Yeah.
And he sends the letter and it takes 2 months to get there. And then his wife reads the letter and is like, did he make it? Mm-hmm. So there's this sense of, even though she's interacting with that in her present, she doesn't necessarily know the circumstances surrounding it or what's happened since or things like that. So he's talking about this in terms, like that's a sense that you actually don't get in games anymore because, or even if you ever did, but I guess in modern communication, the idea is that it's always instantaneous. So Death Stranding is kind of like an intentional throttling of instant communication to make it more indirect.
Now, since you're building up this chiral network, and when you're in an area that has the chiral network, you can literally see the dividing line between chunks of the world that don't. And when you're in the chiral network, you can use the chiral printer, which is like a 3D printer, and the chiral graph and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. So is that type of communication that he's talking about just like when you're outside the chiral network or even within the chiral network?
It's within the chiral network, even though I think within the network you are able, Sam as a character within the world is able to like talk to people.
Yeah.
That's how you see the like other players impacting your world.
Right.
So if I understand what happened in that gameplay demo correctly, when Sam first used his ladder to like cross a gap, he goes and then he talks to someone and reconnects the chiral network for that area.
Was that the musician guy?
I think so.
Okay.
Yes. I think that was him.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So then when he reconnects the chiral network for the area, then he goes back and there's another ladder over that gap. I think that that's what that means, is that like when you're in an unconnected area, you may not see other players' objects.
Right.
And then once it's connected, then you do. So but the thing with the cup is he said cup because there's just a cup in front of him on the table, right?
Yeah.
So he's like, instead of him just calling and saying like, hey, what's this cup for? Or you're playing the game and, hey, buddy, I see your cup. What's going on here? The idea is that like you don't know anything about the context of surrounding the objects that were placed, or when, or why, or what the player was dealing with. So one of those things might be like, let's say that you load yourself up with packages, but then you get chased by some marauders or something out in the wilderness, and you're carrying too much, and you need to gain ground, so you have to like jettison some packages that you're carrying. Then another player might see those populate in his world, and then you're wondering like, why are these packages laying here? What hardship did this other player encounter that they needed to like ditch their cargo?
And I think that level of kind of sitting back and reflecting and wondering is core to Death Stranding. Like Kojima, he almost got the most excited during that gameplay demo when you come up over a hill and you see Port Knot City. Is that the name of it?
Or Edge Knot City? I don't remember which
I think
one.
this one was Port Knot.
Okay.
So you see Port Knot City, and then you're walking down this hill, and he's like, this is the moment where everybody cries. He literally says it because it's playing a song. It's very Red Dead, right? It's like seeing something new. They play this song, and he's like, I just want players to feel like they're connected subtly to every other player who's also slowly walking down this hill.
Yeah.
Please don't take the motorcycle down this hill because you'll ruin the experience. It's like, okay, got it, buddy.
Or your hoverboard.
Right. Yeah, which is also very fun. Kim, you're welcome to tell us to shut up at any moment if we go too deep on this stuff. But okay, the interview here. This part is interesting to me. It makes me laugh. So he says, there's actually 3 steps to the chiral network. For Bridge's sake, you're connecting from east to west, and they want you to join the UCA, the United Cities of America. When you connect, you can use UCA services, but at the same time, they're retrieving your information 24 hours a day. It's like 1984. Some people may not like that and say, I'm not going to connect to the UCA because we're going to repeat the same thing that we did, like Trump or the EU, these things. It's a metaphor. However, if you get really close, they start to say, okay, I'll connect.
Yeah.
And I saw like some people write, some other sites, you know how the internet is. They wrote sites about like Death Stranding's a big metaphor about Trump. Kojima says, it's like, well, not exactly.
No, I mean, the context of that is like the reason people are hesitant to connect is because of the specter of some mistakes that were made in the past.
Yes.
And though the game isn't explicitly saying Trump and the EU, those are things that that we as players in our current reality would project onto that, I think.
Right. And just that idea of look where society has gone before. If we rebuild society, won't it go in the exact same direction again?
Right.
Instead, let's stay disconnected and just like each other's bridges. The way we're supposed to be. And then I love this bit. I won't read it all for Kim's sake, but how he's talking about like the concept hasn't changed. But I love specifically when he's talking about how he had a really tough time pitching it to staff, that a lot of the staff with the original pitch was like, this is dumb.
Yeah.
And he had to really convince them over a long period of time. I love when developers open up on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and then this is the last quote. So I'm going to okay, good. I'm going to impersonate Jojuba here.
Uh-oh.
Here we
He
go.
says, have you explained Death Stranding to anyone and had it click immediately instead of taking a while to understand? And then Kojima responds, yes, there were some people, especially creators, were quite quick to click. That's impossible to say. Like director George Miller, who is my kind of mentor. My God.
Who is kind of my mentor.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. You transcribed this. In 2017, I went to Australia. I only had a trailer, and I also explained verbally to him. George Miller said, in all respects, you are correct. Mathematically, psychologically, physically, philosophically. He kind of started to draw a diagram. He has his theory, so he said, what you're trying to do is correct. I should have recorded that. I should have sent it to the staff. That was really a happy moment.
Yeah.
Maybe not people in the game industry, but musicians, directors, and creators connect to the work. So that's why I tend to kind of overlap with musicians and film directors more than the game industry people, because they kind of tend to synthesize with me in that way and click faster.
Yeah.
He's a level beyond us, everybody. Beyond the game industry.
I don't think that's necessarily
I know. I'm projecting a haughtiness about that. But
Yeah. Well, and again, because I was in the room, like, the tone of that did not come off as haughty. And
Right.
it does not sound like he's name-dropping George Miller, for instance.
a little bit. But still, it's nice.
No, like, actually what happened for that was he gave the first part of the answer, and then his assistant said George Miller, and then he says George Miller is
There we go. Interesting.
So like he did not immediately go to like, let me tell you about my good friend George Miller.
Right. Which is why we should post all interview audio like we're going to do in the back half of this episode of the Game Informer Show podcast with Infinity Ward. Helps deliver the tone.
So anyway, this one, I guess like that. I liked that answer.
Yeah. What are you debating?
So here's what I'm spinning around in my head is just the idea of like how to articulate the way that it in the moment did not come off as haughty because
I
can see those.
joking around.
I think it's partially just more like the idea that he is in Death Stranding specifically. He's definitely dealing, I think, with like some strange thematic things, and even though he's delivering these through gameplay, Death Stranding does not feel to me like a game that at the outset was like, how do we make mechanically a game that that people really want to play?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
It's more about, it seems like it's a game that's about delivering an experience and less about the sort of nitty-gritty of what it's like to play a game.
Right. He's not focusing on enjoyable gameplay.
So I guess in that way, in the moment, it made more sense that like dealing with like that these concepts would make more sense to people who are generally dealing more in like ideas like that rather than game developers who sort of first and foremost are thinking like designing a game.
Yes, absolutely. Again, your review, or not your review, I wish your review. Your interview is on GameInformer.com. Read the whole thing. It's fascinating. Any other highlights, any anecdotes, any jokes Kojima made that weren't in the interview?
Let's see.
What did he smell like?
God.
I'm not
That's
answering.
it. All right, we hit Kim's limit.
There we go.
Hey, Kimberly Wallace, Project Resistance.
Yeah.
This is the new Resident Evil game that's asymmetrical multiplayer.
Yes.
Except, is it even a game?
Well,
That's question number one, I think.
Wait, what?
Well, they're like, it's very early on of them deciding what this game's going to be. So this is very much a testing ground of, getting fan feedback, seeing where it's going to go. And so the impression I got is that this is still very early and more like a concept than like it's playable. They have something like everything is fine, but things could change by the time it launches.
Which it's so confusing how different publishers use that project word. Because some keep it and ship with it.
Yeah.
Others use it when it's a very early. Other ones like Nintendo will keep it and then drop it maybe like 6 months before release. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
So that's what they said. Is it? I mean, there's like a chance that like the next mainline Resident Evil game would come out before this even. Like this could still be a long ways off.
I feel like this is very much a testing ground and trying to see what fans really want. As somebody who is a Resident Evil fan, this was not what I was expecting.
Yeah.
I think they were for a long time, this series has kind of had a little bit of an identity shift, and then it felt like they were getting back on track to more of their roots and what people wanted of the series. And then we get this multiplayer game announced, and it's like, that was the last thing I wanted to hear that they were working on.
Well, specifically, I don't want another Operation Raccoon City, but this thing feels like a notch up from that,
but
right?
yeah, so it's one of those things where I went into this being like, all right, I'll see what it's about, but they're going to have to think of a really cool idea for it to work. And actually they did come up with a really cool idea. You play, so it's 4v1. So 4 people play as one of the survivors, and each survivor kind of has their own role. So Valerie's like a healer. Another character can turn off cameras throughout it. Another one is like your tank who can take more damage. One's like really good with melee attacks. So you pick from one of those 4 characters, and your job is there's 3 stages in each level, and you have an objective in each one that you have to do. So maybe it's find this key or help put together this statue. So find the parts or destroy, this, there's some big transistor thing that you have to destroy.
Of course.
But anyways, So you're trying to get through those stages, and basically your goal is to escape. You have access to your guns. Each of those characters have special different abilities. Like the healer, I played Valerie. She can mark everything in the environment so people can see enemies and items just with the click of the button. But the cool thing about this, and this is where I think they did something really interesting, is the other player who they're playing against is the mastermind. And the mastermind basically controls everything through the various security cameras that are up in the place.
So
and
it's like Left 4 Dead, except instead of an AI sort of orchestrator, it's a real person.
yeah,
who's throwing
you're
all
there,
Right.
so you get to like place traps, place zombies. You are the one who is making it hell for these people to get out.
And you
it's
call in Mr. X too, right?
Yes, you can go and you actually get to. So at any point, you can take control of these zombies and like try to really mess with people, and you can, like I said, control Mr. X. And
But normally for that player screen, it looks like a Five Nights at Freddy's thing where you're jumping around from like
Room
closed
to
circuit
room.
TV, and then it's just suddenly like, let me control that.
yeah,
This, I mean, no, I know multiplayer Resident Evil games, people are mixed on them
Yeah.
overall, unless you go back to the origins and stuff. But I mean, it sounds fun.
well, it's so fun to play as the mastermind that I think they're gonna have a hard time getting people to play as the four survivors
I see.
because like it's fun pulling the strings that you're doing as the mastermind. Like, you know, I had points where I would see somebody walking and I'm like, I'm going to put that trap right like there so they don't see it, or I'm going to put a zombie behind them as they're trying to activate a switch that they need
Yeah.
to. Like, you can get really lethal. And
You control when the dog jumps through the window.
then
Like,
when
and
you-
now.
Then when you control Mr. X, the tyrant, oh my God, for a character that you feared for so long in that series, to
Yeah.
be able to control him and just absolutely annihilate people, and you can, oh my God, it's so fun. It was the best part of the whole experience. But it took me a little bit to wrap my head around just like positioning and going through all the different cameras and figuring out where to set things up the best, because they're proceeding, and so you want to make sure you're like one step ahead of them constantly.
Yeah.
In one case, I think when I was playing as the survivors, you have cards on the bottom that with point values that determine like how much as the mastermind you can do. So like you can't just spam a bunch of zombies, but this one person saved up all their zombie cards for the very end and put all of them in this room, and we walked in and we just got annihilated.
That's
It was so
fun.
like, and I'm very curious what strategies people are going to come up with.
Does
for
it feel, because it's being developed or co-developed by a studio outside of Capcom, does it feel like the Resident Evil 2 remake controls wise, or like how would you?
Yes.
It does.
Yeah, it does.
This, I know it's different, but this really sounds good. Are you optimistic or?
Yeah, as I said, as somebody who is like, this is not what I was expecting next for the series, I'm not sure if I would even say, I would say I didn't want it. But then I went and I played it and I was like, this could actually be fun. Well, it is fun for what it is right now, but I could see even if they turn it into other modes and other ways too, that it could equally. So I think right now what they're doing is smart, is being like, you know, we're going to really see what the fans want on this and take their feedback into consideration and just keep toying with this idea, because they have something that's a good concept. It's just what it'll end up being and what we'll see in the future, I'm not sure.
Right.
I wonder if, so what's the other RE remake that everyone wants? Is it 3?
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if they do a remake of 3 and then tack this on as a multiplayer mode or something like that.
Oh, that's an interesting
instead of a
idea.
standalone
Because
thing.
timing, or like lore wise, it is around like the Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3 period in the history, right?
Yeah.
That would be really interesting. But at the same time, I think what they want is that equivalent of like, you know, the Resident Evil living game, and they want something that they can probably pump microtransactions
or maybe they splinter it off. I guess part of me feels like Capcom had so many years of like people sort of wondering what they were doing with Resident Evil that now with RE7 and with the remake of 2, when they're like, people are finally kind of happy with where its identity is again.
Yeah.
To suddenly go back down the path of like multiplayer spin-off, everyone. I
Right.
think
Yeah.
releasing that as a standalone thing is like, unless it is just like very good and everyone loves it.
I just don't think you can do that much damage to the Resident Evil brand. I understand at this point, because I understand, like, you know, it's been so rocky in the past, and the last several games have been really good. I just feel like
It's that-
Resident Evil fans are used to there being crappy spin-offs
But they
released
shouldn't.
all the
I mean,
time.
they shouldn't have to.
That's
be.
what they don't
And-
want.
And if they've got good momentum going, I think you want to. I mean, I'm not saying that this one game would tank the brand as a whole, but I'm
Yeah.
saying it could break this momentum that they have going now, which I don't think you'd want to do.
I
Yeah.
think they're doing it in a way as like games are becoming such social experiences. Somebody once said to me, it's like, it's the new, like, you come off work, you would go to have a beer with friends. Like now you just pop on a headset and play a game. And I
Just
think they
strand it
wanted to capitalize on that a bit and do something where they did have something that people could work together and kind of have their own survival horror experience, which it feels like it goes against what that genre is because it is such a solitary experience. But this actually works well because I had times where, like I said, zombies popped out at me and I still had those like scares, or like a zombie gets like your teammate, you turn the corner in his clutches and you have to shoot. Like it's just, you know, it captures kind of what I like about Resident Evil anyways, is that, you know, you never know what's behind the next door. You're trying to conserve your ammo, all that. Like you're trying to make smart decisions. So it's all there. It's very interesting to see it play out, like I said, in this more social multiplayer form. But I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that they're trying it.
Right. Project Resistance, but by the time you hear about it again, it'll probably have a
They
different
say
name.
working title.
Okay.
Working title.
Very clever little working title. Nioh 2 is a game that they announced, and I feel like a majority of the gaming world forgot that they announced. What was at the show? Did you get to play it?
Yes, I
Oh.
did a hands-on demo, and I saw like a big presentation on it.
I felt like every day, whenever I asked Kim, "Oh, what's next on your schedule?" it was, "Oh, I have a Nioh 2 thing." She had multiple Nioh 2 things.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you a huge Nioh head? Nioh
I
fight?
really liked the first game, so I was excited for it. I never finished the first game, so I actually loaded it back up and was
Oh, wow.
playing it like right before the show to refresh myself. And it's Nioh, all right.
Same developer as Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, as everybody knows, just for the confusing connection.
Kim was also saying too about how like she's someone who's like tried to play Bloodborne and Dark Souls and it didn't quite work. And even though Nioh's very similar, this is the one that did it for you,
Yep.
right?
Nioh 2.
Well, Nioh 2 is my game of the show, actually.
Are you kidding me?
No, it was really fun. I like it a lot.
Over the Final Fantasy 7 remake?
Well, I didn't have hands-on
Okay,
with the new
okay.
Final. I'm talking about like hands-on.
Sure.
But yeah, Nioh 2 definitely. Well, here's the thing. They hadn't, as you said, people kind of forgot about it because they haven't told us anything about this
No.
game. Outside of the fact that you could finally customize your own character, which is what everybody wanted to begin with, because you have all that cool cosmetic gear that you pick up, and I like how it's like you're constantly changing costumes throughout the game, and people wanted to play in their own likeness. So
Yeah.
that was the big thing we knew. But so for this one, basically you are part yokai this time.
That means ghost,
Yes.
Joe.
I'm aware.
Like the
or
Watch.
or demon.
Oh, really?
But what's cool about it is during the game you'll face off with a bunch of different yokai, and once you beat them, you then can equip one of their moves. So it's like you have all these other extra options when you go into battle. You defeat a big enemy and they like annihilate you with some crazy move, and then you're like, I get to use this now, which is
Yeah.
really cool. I like it. But it is very similar to the first game. Like there's not too much that's different. It's the same, setup of be in a punishing environment, learn the ins and outs, survive, and get the gear you need, and then expect to face that boss like a bunch of times before you finally
That
get it.
tried and true
Yeah.
formula. It's exciting for Team Ninja to like veer out, do something a little bit different with Nioh, try and go for that, Soulsborne genre, and now to have like another iteration on that. I was going to say, like, just imagine like a second crack at the bat. That's got to be amazing, but I understand Dark Souls 2 is divisive. That's a different situation. Think of it more like the Dark Souls to the Demon Souls, right? Like, it's exciting just to give them a chance to iterate on that formula and kind of finesse it even more.
And I feel like that's the thing is it's more of what you want with a Nioh 2 game. Like
Yeah.
I played it and I was like, this is exactly what I wanted. It's the same setup. It's got a few new tricks up its sleeves. Like there's the new weapon, the hatchets that I use that I absolutely love because in the first game I used the big axe, which is, I like to take a lot, like to be able to deal a lot of damage, but you're slow. Actually, the dual hatchets, you're a lot quicker and precise, and it doesn't do as much damage, but it does more than you'd expect.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to finally test those out.
When is Nioh 2 coming out?
Early 2020. Yes.
It's in that impossible window along with everything
Yes.
else. And it's PS4 exclusive still?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. That's exciting. That's one to keep our eye on for sure.
Yeah, keep your eye on it for sure. If you were interested, if you liked the first game, I don't think you will not like this one.
Yeah, it's a lock. Final Fantasy VII Remake. Let's dive into this sucker,
yeah.
Joe.
So you guys talked about the trailer already.
Yes. We
That
dissected
cool
the trailer.
Sorry, it was so good.
It's so good, and the music in particular. Joe, the remake. So at TGS, you mentioned on Saturday they had the big conference thing about it, and it was Katase up on stage. Hey, he had a Buster Sword, everybody. It was like, let this genius put down the Buster Sword. Like, he's a legendary developer. It's not like Sid Meier walks up on stage and shows like, hey, I drew hexagons all over my chest. It's like, yeah, we got it, buddy. We got it.
I don't know. Like the pageantry at TGS is a little is a little strange. Like it's definitely different than something like E3, I think.
Sure. Okay, so in that presentation, I saw the gameplay clips, which were fantastic. They show like the boss fight in the sewers and stuff where you have Tifa and Aerith. I need to get used to saying it, right?
Yes.
Just the production values on this effing thing. That's what it is. It's just seeing like the animation of Aerith's skirt and just every tiny detail. It's like, this game must have cost a fortune.
It looks so good. So a dumb little thing that I noticed, by the way, is like I see like Cloud's walking around with a Buster Sword on his back, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like I'm waiting for him to like really start running because I'm thinking, well, his feet as he's running are obviously going to clip through that Buster Sword. But he like leans forward, like his back is arched in such a way as to like get the sword out of foot range.
He accidentally destroyed so many shoes when he first got that sword, just slicing them up.
And maybe it clips at some point, but like I was watching for it for part of the demo and didn't see it.
And I love in the gameplay footage against that boss fight, like he has a different sword as well. And they show Tifa using a limit break, but it's not like the roulette wheel, like because she has a couple options. I was really curious to see, like, are they going to incorporate the whole roulette wheel thing?
Yeah, it seems like the approach to limit breaks is just going to be a little different this time around, which I guess would make sense. You don't want to, when you've got like an action-based battle system, you don't necessarily want roulette wheels going around.
Yeah,
but
there's some way to like have an homage to it, I'd imagine.
I wonder how they're going to handle like limited or numerous limit breaks though also, because like Braver used to be one of Cloud's limit breaks, but now it's just a move he can do normally.
Right.
So I don't know if then cross slash is just like the limit break. That can't be right because you got to give Cloud Omni Slash at some point.
Exactly.
Right?
You need to hit the button for every slash you do.
Yeah. So.
But the craziest thing they show in that new demo is a summon. Like Ifrit will actually come out and just kind of fight on the battle alongside you, which is a really fun idea.
Yeah. So the way it seems like that works is that there's a summon gauge that sort of fills as you fight, and if I understand this correctly, this was like a translation I was reading from Japanese, but it seems like each character can only equip one summon at a time now. So it's not like before where you could have several versions of Bahamut equipped and cast them all or something.
Yeah.
So then when that meter fills, whoever you have summoned, like, will bring the one that they have equipped, which I guess would be useful for different situations depending on if they're like elemental or whatever.
Yeah.
But and then it seems like they attack at like as the summon is on the field, the summon gauge lowers. And I don't know if that's just like a time-based thing or as they take damage it goes down or what. But when it's all done, then they use like the big hell, like Ifrit uses the Hellfire attack.
Right.
Yeah.
And it seemed like in the trailer, I need to go back and watch it, but there's like a confusing beat where it showed like Shiva, but it's like it's making some sort of vehicle. There was something where I'm like, I don't recognize what this is. It's like, is she a motorcycle again, like in 13, or like what am I looking at here?
It might have just been her version of Diamond Dust. I don't know what. I couldn't tell quite what was going on there either.
Can you imagine though? Does this mean we probably won't see it until 2027 when the game comes out for the third part or whatever, or fourth part? We have no idea. But does this mean that every knight of the round is going to be in the battle with you individually? It does, right? Like,
just the idea of summoning an entire army to just tear crap apart.
How else do they do that? Do they just like run through the battlefield real quick? Like, my turn. Okay, bye.
Yeah. Well, and they can't abandon it either because like people haven't forgotten about Knights of the Round.
Of course not.
I was talking to someone who plays FF14 and like Knights of the Round is in FF14. Like it's still part of the sort of series lore that they're bringing into it. So it's like You can't pretend like it's not there.
It's a very important part of the lore. We all know their backstory. I'm sure in 14 they dive in it. Also, I was confused about this. So in that demo, or in the presentation, Katase said that there is a more traditional turn-based option for battles.
Right. So I think this has gotten spun in some different directions. It's not entirely turn-based. It's like kind of captures the feeling of a turn-based thing, but effectively it is an auto battle. So normally when you're playing this game, and we got a chance to play the demo from E3 again and record it
So many times.
Yeah.
We have a new gameplay today if you're interested.
Oh yeah, you can watch that on the site. But so as normally you're hitting normal attack buttons like square to do damage with basic attacks and build up your like ATB meter.
Yeah.
So that's how your ATB meter fills. It's not just over time, it's with, sort of action. And then when it's full, that's when you bring up like the menu to then select like special moves that you want to do. Like that's how you use Braver, for instance.
Yeah.
But it seems like with this new version or this new mode that they call classic mode, it kind of takes that phase of battle out. So you aren't manually doing basic attacks to build up your ATB gauge. You're just kind of watching it happen and it's filling automatically. So Cloud or whoever you're controlling is like moving around, dodging, blocking, whatever, sort of engaging in regular battle function normally. And your job is when those ATB meters fill, that's when you're like, okay, now I'm going to bring up the menu. I'm going to use Braver and use it on that guy.
Yeah.
And then you wait until the meter's full again, and then you can do something like that again.
Right. It's still unbelievably exciting. I can't believe that game is coming out, and I'm starting to believe that it is actually coming out in March.
March 3rd. Yeah.
Jeez.
And it
So
looks
soon.
like, it's so weird because it feels like, oh man, they've only shown us really early stuff. And at some point they have, but on the other hand, it's like the whole game takes place over like the first 4 or 5 hours of the original, so everything's going to seem like it's early stuff.
Right.
So
yeah,
I'm really excited to see how some of this pans out, especially with so we saw like a new character in that trailer, some new soldier guy.
Mm-hmm.
But then that gets me thinking like, we haven't seen Red 13 yet. And
It's weird.
He's part of the party that you get in Midgar.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, I wonder how closely they're sticking to like, well, these are the playable characters you had at this point in the game. I wonder if there's any like flex with that stuff.
I bet it's not. I bet you still get them in Shinra Tower or whatever, but I bet it's just, remember how much they withheld Tifa throughout the marketing rollout? Like they didn't show her for such a long time. And I think they realized like the reveal of what Red 13 looks and moves like, I think they consider that a big deal and they're saving it for probably a late push, because what else have they got for like a crazy twist push, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess like, did we saw some of the Shinra folks in this one too?
Yeah.
Like the Turks, but like who was the guy in the big hologram in the trailer?
That was
Did you guys-
President Shinra.
Okay.
Which was such a microscopic character in the original,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
fun. Although the lore bit too of him being like, "Oh, you've been proclaimed an ally of Wutai, and we're at war." And it's like, wait, what? Midgar was
Yeah.
at war with Wutai? Like maybe that's in the original. I don't really remember.
I
it,
wasn't
though.
sure it was President Shinra though, because he's wearing the same thing that Heidegger wears.
Oh.
He's wearing that sort of like military style.
Well, when he
uniform.
dies, Heidegger takes his clothes. And fat guy in a little coat type situation, I think is how that works.
So anyway, I don't know. I mean, yeah, there's still a lot of fun stuff I feel like to speculate about.
Yeah.
But
Right.
this new trailer, showing Aerith and Tifa like actually in combat, seeing how the summon stuff works. Those for me were like the big exciting beats.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, this is weird. Speaking of turn-based combat, Yakuza 7.
Yeah.
So we talked last week about kind of the basics, how the series is shifting to be basically a big love letter to Dragon Quest, which seems pretty cool. Did you guys get to play it, or what's the deal
Yeah,
here?
Joe went hands-on, and I watched him do the demo, which made us both like, it's the most I think we've laughed in a demo
Oh,
when we
really?
were there. Yeah, it was just, it's so silly.
Yeah, it's like silly, but also, I mean, silly in the same way that Yakuza games have been silly before.
Okay.
Or, I mean, I guess for me, most recently, I'm coming off of finishing Judgment recently.
Is Judgment
right?
silly?
In
It's got
this,
some stuff.
well, in the combat sense, like it's still got that ridiculous thing of like when you pull off a special move, you glow in some blue fire,
Yeah.
and you like jump in the air with a bicycle and smash someone to death with it.
Right.
Like this still has those moments, those animations. And in fact, it seems like it uses the kind of like JRPG format to go even a little more nuts with some of those moves.
That's what's so great about it.
So it's like one of the guys is like just one of your two party members that you have with you. At one point is like big special moves. He like jumps in the air, drinks a bunch of booze, and then like spits out this weird like fire spiral that just consumes everything in this like intersection that you're fighting in.
Yeah,
you know, it's
fun.
it's I like taking the ridiculous Yakuza like finisher concept and just like ratcheting it up even more. So
do they add an extra layer of an explanation for why it's turn-based now? I mean, I know the lore reason, right, of like, oh, the main character really likes Dragon Quest games and stuff, but do they have any like line in the demo at least of, all right, let's pretend we're in a Dragon Quest game, or any explanation for why it's so radically different?
it was all in Japanese.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. All right, well, that seems fine.
Like, I don't know what any of the attacks are called.
Yeah.
You know, like it was figuring stuff out in the demo of like, okay,
Yeah.
this is the normal attack button. This is the special attack button. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So as somebody who kind of recently gotten into that series kind of loosely overall for you, does this make you more excited about the future? Do you have any trepidation about the shift?
No. I mean, if anything, I'm excited about the fact that it's, again, like the start of a new story. That's one of the things that, excited me about Judgment also, was like being able to go in sort of on the ground floor of some of these things rather than, you know, the Kiryu stuff is like 7 games at this point.
Right,
like
right.
That's a lot. But
For sure.
this new guy is like, hey, it's his first game. You can sort of start with him.
Hey, you can come and have fun. And it's interesting that in the West, they dropped the 7 altogether. They still
Yeah.
have it for the Japanese version, but they're really trying to, I think they realized like Yakuza 0 did really well because so many people saw it as that
beginning.
invite, right? And
Yeah.
just to kind of softly do that again by just calling it Yakuza Like a Dragon.
Yeah, it's
I
called
think?
Yakuza Like a Dragon.
Great. I think it's going to sell gangbusters.
Yeah,
I'm so
it
excited.
It was exciting. I was glad I got a chance to play it.
Yeah, absolutely. Kim, NHL 20.
Yes.
You gave it a
7.5.
7.5. Big NHL fan. I mean, like, just for frame of reference, NHL 19. Did you play that one endlessly? I feel like
Yes.
some of these games you play for like the entire year.
This is
Yeah.
something I want to point out too, just as reviews editor, very quickly.
Oh, Christ. Here we go.
Like normally, like in the past, we've had Bertz wrote our NHL reviews.
Yeah.
Which, you know, he's doesn't work here anymore.
You check out IGN.com for Matt Bertz's review of NHL 20, which is real.
But Kim has been playing these games like just as much and for as long. I feel like she dumps hours and hours into this every year.
Dumps.
So. I'm sorry. You can tell what I think about the value
You
of
won't
these.
believe how many hours she wastes.
It's always funny because,
But-
you know, when they have those year-end things like PlayStation did where they showed you how many hours you put
Oh,
into
yeah,
games.
yeah.
Like, I had like 500 hours into NHL 19.
Kidding me?
It's like, it is I just like to go and play a match when I get home off of work, and
I
maybe
thought that was the
turns into
Overwatch
games.
slot.
It's both. That's why I'm surprised I play as many RPGs as I do. I just
Jeez.
basically have no life. But we
Do
knew
you
that.
sleep?
No, that's the problem.
Oh, I see.
But yeah, for this entry, I think we're in a weird spot because like we're about to go into a new console generation, so we're kind of they can't probably go as big as they want with certain things, and they're still kind of tied to, you know, obviously this generation. So they didn't make like big sweeping changes. Like last year was the big change to the skating system and the physics system, and the skating was just such a big game changer. And they kind of refined what they did there for 20, which is nice, but it's just like it's a smaller upgrade. So like 20 has really cool like contextual shots that you can do. So like your get a pass when your guy snipes, he might drop down to a knee, or like the star players, they all have their like cool slap shots that are like signature to them,
Right.
like Ovechkin.
What does his look like?
It's a slapper of like.
Isn't that the point?
There's a woo.
Isn't that just a slap shot period?
I don't know how to
It's a
I don't
slapper.
know how to explain it. It's
He
like
hits the
he
puck?
sets up shop and he goes. But anyways, so it's cool to be able to like it's really fun setting up plays because no play looks the same as it did before. And every character looks different because characters will have different shots. So that's basically the big change. And then the other big mode that they improved on was franchise mode, which they completely like revamped this year. So for people who play franchise, basically you're playing as general manager, so you're pulling the strings behind you're creating the teams and hoping they go on to the cup. So for this, you hire coaches and you want your players that you sign to your team to be compatible with these coaches, so fit into their scheme. So it's much more strategic than it was before. Unfortunately, have a lot of kinks to iron out.
Yeah, having read Kim's review on this, it sounds like a lot of these, like, hey, they had some really good ideas, but then they just kind of blew it and they did not do them right.
I will be excited to see how they can like expand on this mode. But yeah, there's some stuff that like players will come to you and be like, I want to play more minutes. And you'll be like, as GM, that's like, you can tell, like in real life, you can tell the coach, play this player more. You have no way to communicate that to the coach, nor can you like go in and adjust their minutes. So I'm just like, what am I supposed to do? And then they get mad if you lie to them. You can try switching them around on a different line, but like, that worked like 50-50 of the time. Like,
so you're like a GM, but a GM that's like trapped in his office and doesn't have a phone to reach the outside world.
Players and coaches can come to you, but you can't communicate anything back. It's frustrating.
Talk about the trade system. I'm interested in this.
The trade finder?
Yeah, because this is the thing you were saying was just awful, right?
Well, they introduced a trade finder this year, which everybody had wanted. Like in NBA 2K, they have it, and it works really well because part of the thing that slows things down in GM mode is when you want to trade a player, because a player will be like on low morale and they want to get off your team, and you want to get rid of them because they're affecting your team's morale. An easy way to find it would be like to look up, okay, what could I potentially get for this player? And the trade finder flat out either brings up no results, it doesn't work, or gives you really bad deals. So that's not
Here's
fun.
a house plant for your star player.
And then too, there's like, because you can sign different coaches, I was really excited about that aspect until like every coach gave me crap no matter like what I did, because I didn't have 100. They're like, oh, your market's like medium sized, I want a large market. And it's like, well, I would have to throw money at them, and even then it was just so hard to sign coaches that it became so frustrating. And then they flat out forgot to put a way to like cycle through goalie coaches, so you seriously can't like find a goalie coach unless you try looking through the trait of like a coach who is like experienced with goaltending. But that's not even, and then they yell at you because they're like, oh, you didn't like, this isn't the job I wanted. Right. It's not the role I want. I'm like, well, sorry, it says you're an expert in goaltending. I have no way to sign a coach otherwise. There's just like, there's little things like that I feel like could like have been fixed before they ship this mode. But you know what, it's the hard thing with NHLs. It's like, what mode do you play and what do you like? I really like franchise, so I was super excited about them doing this, and so I was really bummed that it wasn't there. I think Be a Pro fans will be upset because it's the same mode again. They didn't make like any changes, and that's been going on now for the past few years. And I mean, that's like, to compete with other franchises, you need to have a good, like, people love that my career aspect, like NBA, creating your own player. And then
right, the star of the show, yeah.
Yeah. But EA Sports Hockey League, which they call World of Chell now, they call it, is also still kind of where everybody goes. So that's like, you can play online with your friends, and you also like get different gear that you can unlock by playing games and leveling up your character and all that. So.
Yeah, I was amazed. Surprise! I played this game last night for a bit, and I was amazed, just by the amount of modes in there, to the point that maybe this is common in sports games, we're not playing enough, but it was weird because I booted up, and then it's like, okay, here's like, 12 different modes. Pin the 3 you like to your home screen. It's like, you tell us what you want. Like, it's just a good sign of like sports games these days. It's like, we made all this crap. Just what do you want? You can ignore the rest of it. And so it's like, I don't online and this stuff. It's not like it's canceling out the other stuff. You just need to dig deeper in the menu to find that. But it's such a weird feeling of like, World of Chell, I guess. You tell me. I don't know.
Like I said, they made little refinements and upgrades here and there, which like, and I think the gameplay is improved from last year, but like some of these mistakes that they made in modes, they didn't do enough, I feel like. And maybe they're holding back because we are about to go into a new console generation.
It's a
but
tough spot.
Still,
but usually when sports games move to a new console generation, don't they tend to take a step back even further?
Some will. NHL, that's what NHL did when we moved to this one. I hope they learned their lesson, and they don't. So maybe that's why they held back. I don't know.
They'll try and just push it too far, new engine, all that stuff.
Yeah.
There's so much more UI than I was expecting is this maybe, I think I played NHL 09 or something like that a little bit. And compared to that, my memory at least is like there's so many more meters and they're trying to communicate who's open for a shot. And then the goalie thing here.
Yes,
it's just like,
they have
it's
these,
very technical and there's a ton of UI on the actual rink, which I wasn't expecting.
EA has done that with a lot of their games to encourage new players. It's like an on-ice trainer that shows you like, oh, you should pass here, or like just to kind of get people acclimated. You can turn it off. I mean, I turn it off.
Do you do?
It's annoying.
Okay, yeah. And also, my last question is, who's that dweebo that's like on the splash screen?
Oh, Austin
King Dork.
Matthews.
Austin Matthews. Is he on the cover?
Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh, boy. You should see this idiot's face, Joe. He's all over the game.
It's not a good cover.
Video, can we flash that face up here?
Yeah,
so we can
flash
see
it.
For the last time, I edit the podcast. But all right. I'll write down Dweebo as the note. Okay, great.
No, it's not a great cover. Usually there's an action shot, and this one it's just him just kind of looking like it doesn't. It's not. And when I saw that, when it came out, because it had leaked the cover, and I was
really?
like, that really can't be the cover. That's got to be like.
That's a prank.
That's got to be like some placeholder image, and then it's like, no, that was the cover.
Do you think he's like, hey, Mom and Dad Matthews, I'm on the cover? And then they get their
like-
case and look at it like, ooh.
Maybe they're like, yeah,
We've seen
wanted
better
to try, we
pictures.
try something different, or maybe he just wasn't cooperating. I don't know.
Yeah, his parents are like, is there a reversible cover? Oh, there's not? Oh, okay. That's good, honey.
Well, just put one of your baby pictures on there.
Hey, 7.5 review on the site. You guys have been great, but do you want to clap on out of here?
Yeah,
Let's do it.
Okay.
Ready?
Bye.
Hey, we got Ben Reeves.
Hello.
We have Jeff Cork.
Hello.
Welcome, Jeff.
Hi.
And we also have, hang on, there must be a typo here. Alex Stadnick. Hello. Welcome. You are one of Game Informer's new interns.
Yeah, interns.
Interns. Thank you for being here, Alex.
Yes,
it's
thank
nice
you
to
for
have
having me.
a new voice on the podcast.
Yeah.
Unexpected. We normally have interns on like, basically their final week as like a big send-off, but we broke the glass. We could use your voice, buddy.
Surprise, it's your
Beautiful.
final week.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
I walked into this, yeah.
Alex, you're from Minnesota, though, right?
Correct.
Okay. What's your journey to Game Informer been like?
So Game Informer's always been in my backyard.
yeah.
And I noticed that when I was reading as a kid, the bylines all said Minneapolis. So that always inspired me, which was cool.
Yeah.
So growing up, played a lot of GameCube.
GameCube boy.
I could get my parents to get me the movie knockoff games because they knew it. They knew X-Men wasn't like, murdering like kids in the streets.
Right.
But they're like, Mario, I don't trust this
I don't
at
know
all.
about this guy.
Where's that sun shining?
And then I cut my teeth more on like Halo 3, Xbox, like PS3 generation.
That's the thing. You're an
so-
Xbox lad these days.
I'm an equal opportunity console gamer now.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Those are few and far between. To the point that like you're having a great time playing Gears.
Yeah, loving Gears, loving Zelda. Like, yeah, I like everything.
Well, that's what we're here to talk about is Link's Awakening, because Cork, you kind of give your early review last week. I told you to restrain yourself, and you just couldn't because you were gushing up a storm.
I love it. It's so good.
Yeah. Now, when does the review embargo up? Thursday?
Thursday morning.
Great. So you gave it a what score, sir?
A 9.
A 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
But you could not have a better time playing this game?
Yeah, it's so good. I
It's
love
so
it
good.
so much.
And then, Alex, you've been playing as well, capturing video.
Correct.
We have a video going up tomorrow, or maybe even today. Tomorrow, as most people say, like comparing the dungeons in the game to the original, stuff like that. And Ben Reeves, you're the resident
I'm just
moron.
here, yeah.
No, have you been playing too?
Zelda? Yeah, I was a little disappointed when they announced this game because
really?
I can't enjoy good things apparently. I'm a spoiled little child. But I was like, oh, I've already played this game. I want a new game. That was
Right.
my thought. But now that I'm playing it, I'm like, oh, I'm an idiot. This is great. It's
What stands out as
fantastic.
great about it?
Well, the visuals, which you already are aware of.
Yeah.
But it's so like fun and lighthearted. It's just such a joy to play with. It reminds me of like being 5 and just playing with toys. It has that like feeling, just like it's so like comforting to play
Yeah.
with. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
And Cork, that's it. It's just like base gaming, junk food, feel good vibes.
It's just like, because it is a remake of an old game. If you've not played it, it is like uncovering some like this amazing old treasure.
But here's the thing. What is amazing? I know this answer. I'm playing with you guys. What is amazing
Okay.
about Link's Awakening?
You'll have to wait and find out.
Having just replayed it, Cork, like what is it that is so unique?
I think the tone of it is a lot different from the other Zeldas. It's kind of self-referential. It breaks the fourth wall. It's kind of silly in ways that other ones aren't necessarily. There are always moments of levity in Zelda games, right, and weird kind of one-off characters, but it just seems like a fairly pervasive thread throughout the entire story.
It's just like a certain twisted tone, but still charming. It's like this impossible tone to nail.
It really is.
It's, Zelda always has great dungeons, I feel like. And this is from an era when it had great dungeon design, and then there was less garbage between the dungeons. You know what I mean? Like, I went back and played Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons this year.
Yeah, very much in that lineage, yeah.
And those are a little bit harder to go back to, I think, because they have some, like, junk in the trunk. And it's just there were points during those games where I was like, I'm not having fun. But I haven't felt that. I haven't finished this game yet, but I haven't felt any of that. It's just been like, I've enjoyed every moment, even like the stuff between the dungeons where I'm like going to hunt down like somebody's lost dog or whatever.
Yeah. It's super well crafted, pretty tight storytelling in terms of like. Yeah. It always feels like you're moving around with a sense of purpose.
Right. So it's just the second coming of Christ, and that's the end of the story here, Alex? Is that the conclusion? Okay, great.
So this is my first time actually getting to play it.
Oh, really?
And so not only that, I'm also, for the video we're capturing, I did both the original, the DX version, and this.
That's
enlightening. I love this game. Are interns allowed spicy takes on their first show?
Yeah, if it's I love this game, it's pretty controversial.
Yeah.
This Zelda game is going
hold it back, dude.
I know. Well, it's more so that I think this is one of my favorite Zelda games of all time.
Okay.
You're not wrong.
Which I didn't expect.
And this is your first time playing it, you said?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah.
And you love the series overall?
Yeah, like just the levity in this game, and because we were talking about it earlier, like it feels like Beetle from, a couple of the other games, his like wacky sense of humor, like that feels like it's the entire game. And I just love it. I love the weird like Nintendo like characters that like cameo in it too. It's just it's been fantastic. And playing it side by side with the old one, like you see the cracks in the old one, but that game still holds up today.
What do you notice anything in particular? Like, oh, they're more faithful than I expected, or less faithful, or anything? Like looking at that direct comparison all the time.
So I love that they're less faithful, and they really ease of use is huge in this one. Where, because the first one was on the Game Boy, you were stuck with those two buttons. Where I have to go back to the pause menu every like 5 seconds. Eliminating that and just like. Who would have thought the inclusion of like triggers is like God's gift to man?
Yeah, that's so silly. Are there those moments though where you're like, especially looking at so many of the dungeons or bosses, where it's like you're looking at the Game Boy version, it must be fun to be like, oh, that weird shape over there, turns out they reinterpreted it this way, or oh, that was a painting on the wall, everybody. Have you had those moments?
Boss is some kind of monster.
Yeah, exactly. What the hell? I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah, I think the art style of the old game really holds up, and that translates into this one. So not a ton.
A lot more detail is mostly what it is. I was looking over your shoulder, and you went into the house, like it's Mr. Wright's house, who's doing the letters, and like his house is just like got a row of pots in it, and that's about it. It's like him at a desk. But when you go into his house now, and he's like fully decorated, he's got wall hangings and like plants and stuff like that. So it's just like more intricate, and like I kind of like the house designs. It's kind of fun. I'm like, I'd love to hang out there.
Yeah, definitely.
Quick question for you. That one dungeon early on where you have to throw a pot at the door. Now, some local or formerly local idiots got stuck on that because they didn't know they were supposed to pick up a pot and throw it. Yeah. In the original game, is it conveyed?
Not at all.
Not at all?
No, because there's no description on it. So
swing and a miss.
Without playing it the first time, I would have had no clue.
All right. So apologies to Dan Reichert.
Yeah, our apologies in the mail. We'll send some sweet nothings. I promise. That's great. It's got to be nice to like for the people that maybe just played Link Between Worlds not too long ago, and to just have an experience that's gonna feel remarkably similar to that in the year 2019. It's just bizarre, right?
I don't think it feels as similar to A Link Between Worlds as you might think.
Is that right?
It's true.
Just tone-wise. But gameplay-wise?
Maybe gameplay-wise. Yeah, but I think the tone goes a long way. Just like having that like crazy tilt-shifted like model look. There's a different perspective on it too. Like, I don't know. It goes a long way. I feel like I'm playing a different game.
Right. I agree. I am so excited to play this thing.
It's so fun.
Yeah. That's great.
Good job.
Do you like those games though, Hanson?
Have you ever beaten a Zelda game?
Yes. Let's see. Link's Awakening, the original. and then Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild.
Skyward Sword.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know.
Interesting.
I know. It's sacrilegious. I understand that, but
I didn't mean to throw you under the bus, but I
No,
felt
that's
like
fine.
you
I-
walked the rest of the way. Really.
I have started every Zelda game, and I've gotten pretty far in several. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan, but I do love Link's Awakening. It's a sweet spot in my heart. Hey, Call of Duty beta. Also, quickly, Alex, you've been playing that sucker.
Whoop whoop.
Okay, so they had like the gunfight mode in the last alpha, and that was great.
Yeah.
What was in this beta?
I've played NVG, which is Night Vision Goggles.
Yeah.
The classics, team deathmatch, headquarters, and domination. But then they had the wrinkle of 20-man headquarters and domination.
Oh, okay.
Which I liked much more. It feels like they
interesting.
filled out the maps more, and it was a little bit more chaotic, which I liked.
Yeah.
And then realism mode and cyber attack, which is
they really had all that stuff in there?
Yeah.
Jeez.
And they released it day by day, so I played over the weekend. My favorite was I liked what NVG and realism were doing.
Yeah.
I need to see them actually like implemented with like search and destroy and cyber attack, because night vision mode is like, for the people who have seen it or haven't seen it, it's team deathmatch, what I played, but it's also like it's at night and you can't aim down your sights. It's like a different form of hip firing.
So it's just like an option. It's
Yeah.
kind of like a modifier to mode.
Yeah.
It's not a standalone mode. Because even on the cover story trip, they're like, we love realism, but we don't even want to call it a mode because we don't know if it's a modifier or a
It's
separate
like a
mode.
variation.
So it is a variation. So
Yeah.
realism even. So you can play cyber attack in realism mode.
So I would, and I haven't read if they're doing this. I would
Sure.
hope that's the next step in this, because it was realism team deathmatch.
Yeah.
So I would hope it's like search and destroy, because no HUD, and there's times where I was like walking around and a claymore would go off and I'd shoot through the roof because it
kind of fun, right?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
So
Are you feeling optimistic about it?
So I've liked the last two Call of Duties, World War II and then Black Ops 4.
Yeah.
But it's not to be a cliched,
Please.
online gamer, but my favorites are the Modern Warfare series. So I'm looking forward to them going back to that, and what I played this weekend feels good.
Yeah, it seems like people are optimistic about it.
Yeah.
It's nice to see even YouTube traffic and our cover story stuff is still popping up, and now people are down to very specific complaints.
Yeah.
But I still think there's going to be this whole wave, and I don't know if the world's ready for it when the campaign gets out there, especially like in this political climate. I just feel like they're swinging so hard for such a mature, aggressive take in that campaign, and they've shown really no campaign gameplay. Like whenever that foot drops, it could really blow up into a whole.
Will moments from the campaign be used as B-roll in a news story about something else?
100%.
Like mistaken for combat footage kind of a thing?
Oh, a different route. Yes, I guarantee it. They'll
Okay.
just search Modern Warfare and find that.
Yeah.
I think that's
I
gonna
thought you were
happen.
saying like a recruitment video or something, like some crazy dudes in a forest.
Yeah, what are you talking
You're thinking
about?
of
Corey?
the Rainbow Six series.
Yeah, that's
Well,
right.
is it possible that there was like some strategy where they're like, okay, this is going to be controversial. What if we just let people play about it and talk about it, and they'll hype it up as this crazy, like, dark, serious thing, and then when people get it, they're sort of like, it's overhyped? Is that a possibility?
I don't think so. I mean, I had read all those headlines, and then when I saw 3 missions from the campaign or whatever on the cover story trip, it was still like, oh God.
Well-
but I'm a sensitive little flower.
Yeah, I've read the comments on YouTube. You're a big baby. You're
That's
a big tough
right.
man, like the guy who comments on YouTube videos. The toughest of them all.
Stay tuned for back half of the podcast. We have an interview with Infinity Ward talking all about that stuff. All right, hey, that's it. Alex, wonderful job. But for now, do you want to get the hell off the mic? No, do you want to go in the booth and switch the cameras for the community email section?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
I can do that.
Here we go.
All right, see you never.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, and welcome back to the Game Informer Show. I'm now joined by Ben Reeves.
Hello.
He never left. Jeff Cork.
I didn't leave either.
He
Sorry.
never left. And Leo Vader came out of the booth
Thank you.
Oh, another new hire.
and saw his shadow. People send in emails to podcast@gameinformer.com. Wonderful things. Everything under the sun. Everything that makes the show better. That's sent in. Feedback, questions, words of wisdom, dares, games, trivia,
Memories.
Monopoly.
Oh, Monopoly money. That's funny.
Podcast@gameinformer.com. Send it in. We're going to choose our absolute number one favorite email and put a pin in the big board where they're from. Honor their country.
Yep. That's really all we want.
Bring
in this
honor to
life.
your country.
Yeah.
Right in.
Yes. And if it's from any country, yeah, write in. If you're from a country, write in. And then let the leader of that country know that you made that board.
And apparently, if you're just drifting out in the ocean, we'll take you at your word.
There was an island there.
Yeah, why not?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Come on.
Feedback from last week. Aaron Tribbett says, "You call that a podcast?" No, he says, "Hey, the potatoes that you're talking about, they were sliced, diced, fried, and slammed in the oven at 375 degrees Fahrenheit to bake for 30 minutes, cooked with garlic, Italian herbs, and seasoning, and topped with Parmesan cheese to crust."
That sounds delicious.
That's a
What
little
is that?
Aaron Tribbett recipe. He made some potatoes last week, and I think somebody's like, "Potatoes? How?"
I bet Dan Tack's cooking that up right now.
Yeah, he's a cooking. Let's see. Dan Brook of Post Falls, Idaho says, "Hello. We are in full swing of the fall release schedule of games. September alone is jam-packed." Did you hear about that?
Yeah, that's jam-packed.
I see advertisements for all the releases, big and small, but I haven't seen much on one title that should be getting more hype. And of course, I'm talking about Jedi Fallen Order.
I was
What's
just
up
thinking
with
about that. What is up with that?
What is up with that? Maybe it's as simple as NHL's coming out, and so EA was trying to push that. But now that the sports stuff is out of the way, now EA can focus on fun games to play. No, they can focus on Jedi Fallen Order, like their last big game of the year. Is
Well,
that
that's
it?
out when? November?
Yeah,
They got a whole month.
right. But
Whole
it is,
open month.
It is odd, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it'll get a huge push, though. I think they'll get
Forced
behind
push?
it closer to
It's Star Wars, right?
Oh, man.
closer to when it comes out. You'll get your TV commercials and everything. I think it is weird that it hasn't been built up so far.
Do you think there's a chance of a delay happening here?
No.
We smell a little force delay? Okay.
Yeah, from what we saw,
I don't think so.
Hey, that's good.
Another Star Wars joke.
Yeah, that's true. So I guess it'll be coming, but it is notable
Yeah.
for sure. You expect like just YouTube to be filled with 30-second ads at this point.
I
or
think I
something.
saw enough from E3 though.
Did you?
I think I'm good.
Okay.
I mean,
I get it.
I mean, we are more than a month out. I guess it doesn't surprise me that there's not ads. Like, how many ads do you see like more than a month out for something?
I don't know. So Dan Brook
Good
also
point.
Dan Brook also asks, "P.S. Is Leo single? Asking for a friend."
We'll see.
we'll see.
We'll see. Cool. Let's see. Brady Swenson from Utah writes in, and he says, "Hey, GI Crew, when interviewing a developer before a game's release, what do you like to hear from them that gets you excited about the game?"
Speaking of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order,
Oh, yeah.
somebody very high up on that team, who I won't name, over dinner was like, I f***ing hate Marvel movies, which was just encouraging for me to hear.
Wait,
not that
you
it's,
like hearing that?
I like hearing that. Not that it's
That
like
gets you excited about the game?
yeah, not
What are
that
you
it's
talking
not
about?
that it's like wrong to like Marvel movies, but
It is.
the fact that this person who's so locked into Disney is not like evangelizing everything they do. It was a good
Right.
sign, I think, for their creative integrity.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So
What
what
a
I was going to say
twist.
is I don't know how to articulate it, so I'll do it poorly.
Okay.
I don't like when they are smoking the Kool-Aid, kind of like you're saying. I like it when they're genuine. What? I said poorly.
You did say it poorly.
I like when they're like genuine about it and they don't just like parrot back like clearly marketing lines.
Right.
Is there anything worse than hearing someone saying like, this multiplayer mode we've got, I looked over, QA has been just plugging away, having fun.
They
Like
say it
we've
all
got
the time.
guys like we're trying to hit this milestone and everyone's just playing this multiplayer mode. They're having such a great time. It's like that's how I knew we were on to something special.
Please enjoy Army of Two Devil's Cartel.
Oh.
But when
Yeah.
you were saying Leo is like he was like I don't like it when they crap on other things just so they make their thing look good, I guess. Which is I thought where you were going, which wasn't quite what you were saying. But
Right,
if they're
right,
just
right.
like insulting other things, it's like I don't want to hear that.
Right.
It's
yeah.
like this guy has a genuine love for Star Wars.
Yeah.
Because doesn't genuinely love everything that Disney does, right? You know,
Right,
that just
right.
yeah.
But he did love Kingdom Hearts, and he was wearing a T-shirt. He was forced to, I believe. That's the way that works.
I don't want to hear them say that they love Kingdom Hearts.
For me, it's specifically like, yeah, we're excited about the game. That's great to hear. But what I love, my kryptonite is, I'm so proud of this game. Like, this is like the best thing I've ever made in my career, right? But it's rare that you get that. I remember even on the God of War cover story trip asking Corey Barlog about it. I think it was in the Rapid Fire, and he's like, maybe it wasn't in the Rapid Fire, but at some point he's like, I'm reasonably proud of this. I think I like it more than God of War 2, but ask me after the game is released. Like, I'm not sure yet, but that's always my weak spot, is just when someone personally is like, this is the highlight of my effing career, and it feels sincere.
Oh, well, how do you gauge that? Because that could just be something that they're saying. Like, I think this is the best thing I've ever done. Like,
I'm very good at reading people.
How's this episode going so far?
Could be better.
All right.
Let's see. Blake Kibbe writes in. He says, "Hey, Brett Manson and the TI crew, whatever." Oh, wait a minute. Oh, now this is all.
Seem to have had some kind of stroke.
Yeah, this is all messed up. This isn't Blake Tibby.
What are you doing?
This is Brett
I did that
Manson.
when I did the podcast. You're better than this.
Okay, this is Brett Manson. He says, "Hey, I recently became the last 28-year-old to ditch his slider and get a smartphone, iPhone SE, if anyone's wondering. What essential iOS games should I check out? Where do we start?"
cut the rope.
Oh, great. I guess the timely thing is Apple Arcade is out, so if you want to give that a whirl, you'll have a bunch of Frogger games or something.
Photographs.
Oh,
Photographs.
Great. Best on mobile, I'd say.
No, what was that again?
That was just a few little vignettes, these little short stories of these people's lives playing out.
Did you
Yeah.
actually love that, though? Because I feel like I liked 2/3 of it. And
Yeah.
there's a third of it I actively disliked.
I really liked it. I would recommend it for the price and for it's the best thing you could do on a plane.
Yeah.
I like the Room series.
Oh,
They're
yeah,
all
The
really
Room.
great. If
Yeah.
he's new to the world of smartphone gaming, you pick up the Room 1, then you move on to 2, 3, and you keep going till
Then
you've
what?
done them all.
I think
Wow.
there's 4, right?
I hope so.
Your Walk also.
Your
Oh,
walk.
interesting. Hey, they just made same team as made Sayonara Wild Hearts.
Yeah. Play Clash Royale for a while, and then when they ask for your money, uninstall it, because then you get sucked in like I did.
Yeah, no way out of that
Nope.
rabbit
That's
hole.
where I live.
Email also very good.
Also, Dr. Mario World.
You're the only person on planet Earth that likes that game, Reeves.
It's the best game. I don't know why people don't like it.
Because it's marginal.
It's the best game.
Oh, great. I'm happy you like it. I had a fine time with it, but it's just amazing how quickly it died off. And in every other podcast I hear talk about it, they're all like, I'd rather lick my dog's butthole than play Dr. Mario
You
World.
didn't smoke the Kool-Aid. You gotta like play a little bit longer.
Stop listening to such perverted podcasts.
Yeah, yeah, that's no problem. Just download and play Threes. I think everybody forgets how good
Oh,
Threes
yeah,
is.
Threes
It's
is
like a
great.
perfect
Oh,
mobile
Triple
game.
Town.
Triple Town. I feel like Threes is kind of similar mechanics. It might have surpassed Triple Town in my mind. But
Really?
I hear you. Jeremy Shepard from Pensacola, Florida. He says, as for my question, I got out some things.
Furthermore,
In conclusion, I was just thinking about how Microsoft's first-party studios, not the recent acquisitions, are named after the games that made them famous. 343 Industries for Halo and the Coalition for Gears. I personally find that cheesy and somewhat creatively stifling. Like the team could never move on to do something completely different. That being said, if Sony's first-party studios had done the same thing and were stuck making the same series forever, what would their names be? My mind was going to things like Bandicoot Factory for Naughty Dog, Dragonfire for Insomniac, Olympus Works for Sony Santa Monica. Can you guys think of anything funnier or dumber for Sony's first-party studio names?
they'd all be dumb for sure.
Jammer Lammy Incorporated.
What are they still making?
Well, it's weird because Sony's studio names are all over the place, but specifically like Japan Studio. It's weird that Sony's Japan Studio, like the Parappa team, they've done Knack, they do so many great games. But like they've never had a better name. You think at some point it's like, let's rebrand this thing because I don't know. I just feel like all those games kind of get lost in a bit of a like marketing or like highlightable void by just saying like, oh, it's, General Japan Studio.
Japan did it.
There was
Yeah, exactly.
Team Eco.
Right, exactly. But even that, like Last Guardian shifted over, and then it's like, I don't know, Japan Studio kind
Well,
of
now
mopped
they
up.
don't even exist anymore. I think.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, you're not allowed to mention them. Yeah, it's fun. Like you think of, Naughty Dog. Lo and behold, Naughty Dog gets stuck with a bad name for their studio.
God forbid.
I think they'd be better off if they were like Ripper Roo Studios or something like that.
Well, yeah, it's like Sony Santa Monica. It's boring, but it's
Yeah.
not like offensive or stupid.
It is kind of stupid. It is so
Well,
boring it becomes
It's
stupid.
boring, but like I don't know. You're making fun of Naughty Dog, right?
Right.
Because the name's so dumb.
Yes,
right?
it's the worst in the industry.
But
yeah.
like you don't feel that for Sony Santa Monica. I don't think.
No, it's classy. It just is flat,
In Crash Bandicoot, you collected apples, right? They could have called
Wumpa
themselves
fruit.
Apple.
Oh, that's smarter though. Damn it, I shouldn't have stepped on your joke.
No, it's fine, man.
Forrest from Lawrence, Kansas says, hey, G.I. Crew, I was wondering if the I Watched the Entire Overblood Super Replay group on Facebook could get a shout out on the pod.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I don't think we do that on the podcast. Anyways, he says, it took me a while to find out about the place, and I think it would be helpful to promote it every once in a while. The group is full of a bunch of great people with good conversations and dumb memes. Oh. It is a lovely Game Informer Facebook group. Check it out. It's a very nice community, especially like if you're looking for people to play games with, like online games. Like, I could use a partner in this. Like, that's the best place to go.
It's a good place to go and post in if you want people to realize you're not that great after all, and they wish you'd go away.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking from experience.
Hey, I'm still here.
You're better on the podcast. You ain't great there either.
Tyler Olu from Oshawa.
What? Spell it.
Ohlew. How would you pronounce that?
O. Tyler O.
Okay, Tyler Overton. Look at this character. Tyler Olu from Oshawa, Ontario. He writes in, he says, hello, Game Informer. I was curious if weird and unusual control schemes ever make you more interested in playing a game. Sure, there's a reason the industry has settled on certain control setups, but I love when a developer feels it necessary to shake things up with games like Kid Icarus Uprising and Katamari Damacy.
Someone hates their hands.
Remember when Assassin's Creed was going to have A be your feet always
Yes,
and
yeah.
Y was your head?
And then,
I actually kind of like that.
It was interesting.
yeah, your hands were like the left and right.
Even in the
Face
first one, they
buttons.
didn't fully commit to it,
Yeah.
I feel like, and then they were just nowhere close
Yeah.
after that.
Actually, this isn't good.
Did you, were you attracted to the idea in the Death Stranding gameplay? I don't know if you saw this, but the idea of you hit L and R to like balance, because you have the big stack on your back, and I guess throughout the entire game, as far as I can tell, when you're traveling, you have to like balance.
So you can
with
just
L
like
and R.
walk up a hill and slowly fall and just
Yeah.
topple over.
and then lose your package. It's a lot more like a truck simulator than I realized now that I think about it, actually. You're trying to damage your goods as you get across the country.
Do you think he says, whoa, 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 whoa?
I guarantee he does that.
Will his arms pinwheel around a little bit?
I guarantee that.
Very cool.
If you're rolling down a hill, can you hold R1 to accelerate the roll?
Just tuck your knees in.
And then you attack the BTs that way, but if you get enough speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was really attracted to Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
My Brothers. The game Brothers. I think like I was really attracted to it early on, but then I played it. I was like, I don't know if this is good, but then it ends well.
And as they say.
And now I'm in love.
Okay, never mind.
As soon as I heard Brothers, I was in.
Yeah.
Dead Rising also, I feel like the original one aged better than it might have because of its weird controls. You know,
What are
you're
the
not,
weird controls?
the like holding R1 to aim and then X to shoot. Isn't that what it was?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Everyone was trying to figure it out in their own way.
That's kind of like the Metroid Prime games where you have to lock onto things.
Right.
and shoot.
That's
Face
interesting.
Not good.
Daniel Catano says, what it is, Jive Turkeys.
Oh.
If your life were a video game, who or what would be the final boss?
It's a Grim Reaper in Castlevania, right?
But then what if you defeat them?
So it'd have to be somebody you can't defeat? Is that
I
the
don't
idea?
know.
We
I
can
guess-
defeat, probably.
Yeah.
It'd be a bad game otherwise.
Right. So it needs to be somebody beatable. It'd be like winning the affection of your grandchildren probably before you drift off.
Can it just be the last boss in Gone Home? I could do that.
Yeah, I think so. Eric Howder. Ooh. I appreciate this. This is helpful information. They say, I played through Groundhog Day like father, like son this weekend for review for another site. How dare you for another site? This is the PSVR game that we did an interview about on the podcast a while ago, and it seemed like no one else in the world cared about, but I really cared about it. I have a copy of the game, and I brought a PSVR home to play it, and I was so excited and got it installed and all ready to go and set up, and then I booted it up, and then it said, please turn on your 2 PlayStation Move controllers. What? Move controllers? It like requires Move controllers? It's outrageous.
They don't want anybody to play that game.
It's a lot, right? And it's outside of PSVR as well, but I guess I got to dig through the Game Informer office for 2 Move controllers. Anyways, I don't know if I need to because Eric wrote in here with his thoughts on the game. He says, it's kind of a bummer. The writing. Wait a minute. Oh, here we go. The writing, 4 out of 5 stars.
Okay.
Performances, 4 out of 5 stars.
Great.
Super cool adventure game, time loop structure, 5 out of 5 stars.
What?
Great.
Irritating broken mini games that drag the whole thing down and ruin the experience, 0 out of 5 stars. This game is so good in so many ways, but absolutely fumbles execution with some awful mini games. The VR tracking's a mess, and the mini games require precision, leading to some frustrating failures that force you to repeat the mini games again and again and again and again. Kind of ironic, right? Not so much a podcast email, but I thought you might be interested. I considered it a podcast email because I wanted to play it still.
that happens in games sometimes where it's like there just didn't have to be gameplay here. You could have eliminated this whole thing and it would have just been more enjoyable. Nobody needs to be challenged all the time, right?
Yes.
If it's gonna suck.
Just keep it moving. Absolutely. Connor writes in and says, "Hey, I challenge anyone to name 3 characters from Randy Pitchford's famous hero shooter Battleborn."
Mushroom guy.
Mushroom guy.
Come on, really? You remember his name? I went on the cover story, so I feel like it's not fair.
Who wrote in with this?
Connor.
Shroom?
We talked about
Fungus or something? Wasn't his fung something?
Miko.
Was it Miko?
I think it's Miko.
I was close.
Yeah. Yes, Leo.
We talked about
Gonna
this-
Get whiplash looking back and forth.
we talked about this on the latest episode of my other podcast, Game Query.
Oh, are you serious?
And we ended up reading off a list of all of them on the episode, and that was less than a week ago, and I could not tell you a single one.
You can't remember a single one.
No.
So Leo wrote that letter in so we could have a little plug.
Yeah, exactly. Very shrewd.
so organic.
Yeah.
I've
My
waited
other
years
better
to plug that.
podcast.
Oscar 76.
Oscar 76, I was going to say.
Or is it Oscar Mike?
Oscar
It's,
Mike
yeah,
Isaac.
Oscar 76. I'm combining this Overwatch. It's
Yeah.
Oscar Mike is the guy's
Yeah.
name. Ophelia, I want to say.
Bastion.
Bastion. Here we go. Connor from Norfolk. We're all
Virginia?
kind of Norfolk. Yeah, the very same. He says, "Hey, I love the show and the people on it. What are some advanced words you learned at a young age due to gaming?"
I learned the word mitochondria from Parasite Eve. I
Oh,
remember playing that
really?
Game. And then better than that, I was like playing it, and that talks a lot about mitochondria and what it does.
They're
in
the
your
powerhouse
body.
of the cell.
That's right. And then I had like a biology test like the next month, and I was like, oh, I know all this.
Wow. Did you write in mitochondria for every answer, though? I know all this.
Yeah, I got a D minus, but
you spelled
got
it
a couple
differently
of
every
answers
time.
Mitochlorine. What?
From the Animaniacs game pack, I learned the word Belchinator.
Oh, that's helpful.
Is that a real word?
Helpful in most tests.
I don't know.
Connor says, "Hey, some examples for me include chaos from Sonic. We've all learned. I think the world learned about chaos from Sonic originally. Experience from any RPG. That's interesting. Experience, I guess, is a tough word when you're that young, right?
Yeah. The concept of hand-eye coordination.
That's true. Medallion from Ocarina of Time. Debt from Animal Crossing. That is true. Oh, what about like mortgage from Monopoly, right? I
Yeah.
know it's a weird definition
Sure.
from that game, but that was definitely
Yeah.
when you're like 6, like mortgage.
It might have made me more confused about it, though.
Yeah, that's true.
I learned the word hate from Monopoly.
For me, it was Chrono Cross allocate. Allocate, however you phrase that, is like how you assign something in that game. I forget. And I just remember looking at it back in 1999. I was like, what is that word? P-U.
I recently learned the word strand. From
Is
a
that
video
right?
Game, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I'm still trying to figure out what it means, but I learned the word.
Strand by your brand.
That's right.
Mike from Burlington, Vermont, that is, Cork. He says, "Hey, the poor performance of Control and Borderlands 3 on the base consoles has me very frustrated. I feel left out of a good experience because I only have a base PS4. I feel let down not only by the developers, but by Sony and Microsoft, who build the Pro and the X as optional upgrades, not necessities. Now I'm worried that my most anticipated upcoming titles like The Outer Worlds and Cyberpunk 2077 might be hindered by the limitations of the platform I own. Are base consoles going to be left in the dust as next gen approaches?"
It's what everyone was worried about.
And it's
that
I
exact
think
thing.
we're here.
Yeah.
Like the reckoning is nigh with Control, where you talk about it. It's like,
Yeah.
borderline playable on a base PS4.
I
It's
think
like,
that's
oh my
like
God.
it's a huge bummer, and I understand being frustrated with it. But at the same time, I like the idea of a new console coming out or a new iteration of the console coming out, and developers not spending their time wringing their hands over ensuring that everyone has the best possible experience. And perhaps what is playable on a base unit PS4 right now is the best possible experience. It's just like, dude, this thing's old, and it's playable, but like technically
Yeah.
so.
This sounds like somebody who owns some
Nice hardware.
mid-console upgrades.
Who's old enough
Yeah,
to
dude.
afford things?
Yeah, exactly. I still have my base PS4, and I guess I haven't noticed a game fully breaking down. Like Blackout's getting rough, but I think that's just the overall Call of Duty tech, I
Yeah.
think. But I'm playing Control on PC, so I guess I haven't noticed that too much.
Yeah, I got a PS4 Pro. I gave my base one of my kids, and he's playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Oh.
So I watched him play that, and I was like, oh, these load times are killing me.
Really?
I'm surprised that he's just able to endure it and doesn't know any better.
He's a
And I
child.
don't- He's a child.
Yeah.
He's doing childish things, like suffering through load times.
Uh-huh.
But like when they have the new consoles, they I would rather have a console that takes full advantage of that and games that look great and run well and have a market improvement over what exists now. Even if that means that if you did buy a PS4 at launch, you're kind of left in a lurch. It's just
Your launcher,
It's. I mean, at that point, it's like don't release it for the old ones then, because people who play Control on PS4 just don't like it. Every second of gameplay feeling bad. There's no way they still like the
or
game.
maybe
after
don't
that.
buy it.
that's maybe a more reasonable way.
Fine.
Yeah, then you won't.
I think.
Then they won't have sold it to you.
I mean, I don't know. The cover story was a long time ago, but just based on Obsidian's history,
Obsidian.
shut up. The Outer Worlds, I feel like, on like a base PS4 could be a real contender for an S show.
Yeah.
I don't know anything, but I'm just saying if there were a most likely scenario for a disastrous launch later on, I feel like that could be up there. Cyberpunk.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Good luck.
Don't think it'll look like what they've shown in those videos so far. Like there's no way they're
Period.
demoing that on anything anywhere near a base level PS4 or
Right.
Xbox One. Yeah. Play it on Stadia, everybody. Seriously, like
It might be the
probably
best
better off.
experience, yeah.
I mean, for a lot of people, if you can't afford that PC, we'll see what the actual input lag and stuff is like. What a fun one. Spence from Easton, Pennsylvania says, "Hey, philosophical question for you. Mini games are described to have light puzzle elements, but at what point does a mechanic become a light puzzle element? If there's a locked door and you need to push a button to open it, is that a light puzzle? What if
Yeah.
the button is right next to the door versus on the other side of the room? What is the minimum distance that the button needs to be in order to be considered a puzzle element?"
It's not a distance thing. It's if there's a wire going from the door to the button.
Yes.
Then it's a
Oh,
puzzle.
yeah.
Is
Hunt it
that
down.
what it is?
If you have to think.
You have to think at any point. Or does
Or
the,
use detective vision.
or does the button need to be hidden from view, like behind a wall or under a pot? Is that required? Can you push the button yourself, or do you need to use something else like pushing a box?
Well, that's definitely a
Batarang.
puzzle.
Is kill everything in this room a la Zelda to unlock the door? Is that a puzzle element? Does triggering a timer and running for the door count as a puzzle? Does a maze count as a puzzle element?
challenge.
Does getting lost in Doom 2016 because of its terrible map count as solving a puzzle? These are very good questions, and I
Well,
don't have an answer for you.
Does he answer them, please?
He does. He says they do count as puzzles.
All of them?
I just remember, and I talk about it too much, I guess, but on the Darksiders 2 cover story trip,
Oh, yeah.
how the producer for that game described these types of scenarios as nuzzles, which are not a puzzle.
They're kinda
Yeah.
like
But he's like, yeah, I know it's a
nuzzle, yeah.
dungeon, so you're throwing a nuzzle here, nuzzle there, that type of thing, and I can't stop thinking about it. We're like, all Lego games are a series of nuzzles.
Remember when you were on the Shadow of the Tomb Raider cover story and you like were pushing them on like, why do you keep doing these puzzles?
I
Who
don't
likes
remember
these?
that. You weren't there, first of all.
You told us about it. You
I
were
was there.
very
And
proud
Reeves,
of yourself.
if you were there, you can shut up. I wasn't saying don't include puzzles. I was
You
just,
said these suck. Why do
No.
you do this?
I was asking about their puzzle philosophy.
Does
is all.
anyone like this?
Do you ever think, do you want to not do these or something like that?
What you said was when you put the puzzle in the game, it makes my head hurt.
James from Stirling, Scotland says, "Hey, did you know that Insomniac Games made a few little indie games while they were still independent, such as Slowdown Bull and Song of the Deep?" Yes. You were the first person, congratulations, to mention Song of the Deep in 4 years. So congratulations to James.
GameStop published, correct?
That's true.
We mentioned in the Spider-Man Rapid Fire, we were listing off Spider-Man villains if they're going to be in Spider-Man, and we said Slowdown Bull for one of them, and it took Brian Intihar a good minute to remember that
that's
they made that
I
game.
amazing.
love that. I love that. It was my
He's like,
question,
"I
so I
know
love
that."
it. And James says, "What are some of your favorite smaller, lesser-known games from big developers?"
I've
Remember-
talked about this game a lot, but Box Boy
Oh yeah,
really
From
fun.
Hell.
from Hell
Yeah.
is really good. It's worth playing. Cute little box that you can create other boxes
Yeah,
and
we got
solve
it.
nuzzles.
We got it.
all
We
over
got
the
it.
place.
We got it. We got
Does
it.
Grow Home count?
Yes, I think that's a great example. That's perfect. Yeah, from Ubisoft Reflections.
That's a great game.
That's a great one.
What do you like about it? I've tried to. People seem to have so much praise for it, and I like visually how it looks. I've tried several times to have fun while playing it and couldn't find it. What am I missing?
I have a young soul
Oh,
that still has light in it.
How did you? How did your young soul overcome the poor controls?
thank you.
Oh my!
Too many old souls in this room. I
Didn't
guess.
expect to be put on blast. I liked the self-driven. Like I see a place I want to try to get to. How do I get there? Let me go there. Let's see if I can glide to here. Let me figure this stuff
Yeah.
out.
You should try hiking.
You should seriously shut up. You should play Short Hike on Steam.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I will. I'm sorry.
Leo,
Please,
you should play a Short
please
Hike
let me be on the
Steam.
podcast.
All right, I'll leave your mic on. Alex, don't cut his mic after all. Forget that secret text I sent you. I don't know. Game Freak made Harmonite. Brent Woodruff from Durham, North Carolina, has a doozy. Look at this one, Cork.
Oh boy. Settle in, folks.
He's saying Final Fantasy VIII is my favorite in the series, and I've been playing through the remaster after not touching it for probably a decade. I was absolutely blown away with how complex and wonderfully messy the adult relationships are in that game. I don't mean the principal cast. I'm talking about Squall and Rinoa's parents specifically. This is too much, but I'll just read like the beginning of it because it's nice to acknowledge that Final Fantasy VIII came out, and it's telling how far behind I am on games that I've not booted up Final Fantasy VIII so much. I've been looking forward to playing it again because it's been 20 years. Anyways, Brent says, hey, Laguna, Squall's father, meets Rinoa's mother, Julia, as a lounge singer, and they have a brief, subtly romantic encounter. But Laguna goes to war, and Julia marries and has Rinoa, but never got over Laguna and died in a car accident when her daughter was 5. You know what? This is a bummer. The point is that the game is more complex about the parents.
I think you really did that guy a service. So.
Hey, I appreciate Brent writing in with these thorough explanations of the lore of Final Fantasy VIII.
You just don't have time for his bullshit.
I wish it was
That's
interesting.
Really, really respectful of his time.
Well, I
Cool.
just remember there was an episode a while back where somebody wrote in with a thorough explanation of every airship in
I was
Final
having
Fantasy.
flashbacks to that.
And then I started reading it and realized, okay, I'll cut this part of the podcast because everyone is walking out.
This is going to be another one where we're all just staring at Hanson and then say, cool, when he's done.
He usually likes that, though.
Yeah.
That's kind of email.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Jacob from Raleigh, North Carolina. Wait a minute.
Uh-oh.
Is this Jacob Geller?
I hope so, because his videos are great,
Yeah,
and
there
everyone
it
should
is.
watch them.
You should watch Jacob Geller's videos on YouTube.
I just
blown
said
up.
that.
Yeah.
I just said
Just
that.
because he came up organically, he was on an episode of Game Query recently.
Okay, Leo.
You know what? Cork already mentioned him.
And Jacob says, hi, Ben and the crew. Do you guys have a favorite biome in video games?
Ooh.
I love deserts. Ooh. Whether it's Fortnite, Zelda, GTA, Minecraft, I always gravitate towards desert areas. I find this odd since I've never seen a desert in my life. I also hate jungles. What do you think?
I do like jungles.
You do?
Yeah, I don't like snow levels. Because you always, traversal is usually like, you gotta walk slow or slip on the ice.
Mm-hmm.
And underwater, you know, you gotta do breath
So
management.
your favorite biome though is jungle?
Yeah,
Especially when where there's like two biomes next to each other and you move from jungle to jungle.
the transition. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, lush green biomes. Very nice.
100%. I like a good open field with maybe some evergreen trees in the distance. You know, something to look.
Oh,
at,
edge
something
of
to
the
spruce up the
forest.
place. Edge of the forest looking
Something
thing.
to spruce up the place. Look
Yeah.
at you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for noticing and acknowledging
Very
me.
good. Cities don't count as biomes, right? Because
Cities were nature's first biome.
Yeah,
Concrete
I like
biome.
cities.
Do you really?
I think I'd rather have a game set in a city than nature.
Really? That's effed up.
Is it?
That's an interestingly broad question that I think it would say a lot about someone to ask.
Yeah.
But why is that weird though?
Because
I grew up in the city, man.
maybe that's what it was, but I just think of like you get lost in alleys, they're dead ends. There's no dead ends in nature. Except for if you're
Well,
into
except
like
for
a
the human
scorpion.
race.
A cliff.
Oh.
Leo, do you have a joke
Those
you
are
want to go
three
over?
different-
Hang on, let's come up
Can
with
I just
different
pick my favorite?
Okay, let's come up. We each come up with different ones separately, and then
Oh,
we'll say it
wait,
at the
hold
same
on.
time.
There's no dead
wait.
ends in nature, but
Okay.
Okay, ready? Okay.
Wait.
As everybody knows, there's no dead ends. Okay, as everybody knows, there's no dead ends in nature except my
The
ex-wife.
flat Earth.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Do you guys think it's interesting, or is it just hot in here? If, like, you know how like platformers, they always start out and it's always like first level in almost every platformer, green grass. Final level in all platformers, it's like spikes, industrial, blah, blah, blood, machinery. Do you think that's like humanity's fear of like industrialization?
Or they're disgusted.
Do you think there's anything to
Hansen's
that?
the dead end.
Political office are you running for?
HUD.
You should work at that
Hide
game
the
company.
HUD. Oh, do you think so?
I think so.
Hello, Genova. Bring, bring.
No, it's a great smart point.
Hello.
Green is safe, industrial is dangerous.
Right, exactly. Unless you're Ben Reeves.
Oh, then black. That's life. Life-giving, just like my street.
Holy Lord. Jacob also
What's going
says,
on?
P.S. I feel like I hear a lot of emails on the podcast from North Carolina. Is this legit or some kind of recognition bias? I've never noticed that, so I think that's recognition bias.
Yeah.
You're biased, dude.
Yeah, check your bias.
Oh, here's a fun one. Mark from Phoenix, Arizona says, I'm so glad you mentioned Creature Comforts. That was one of my family's favorite shows, and after you talked about it, I had to find a way to watch it again, and it's actually available for free on Crackle. So please tell everyone to go watch it on Crackle.
They can't do that, unfortunately.
Like free? Like you don't have to have
I don't
Crackle?
know. Does anyone know what Crackle is other than the place where Comedians and Cars used to be? I don't know.
I thought you had to have a subscription for that.
Oh, Crackle Plus.
Yeah.
I really want to bring back this concept, but use audio from therapy sessions. I'm a practicing marriage and family therapist because I think of it could not only be a great show with humor and drama, but also help remove the negative stigma of therapy.
Thanks, Dr. Katz.
Yeah, Mark, I hope you've been secretly taping all these therapy sessions and turn them into cute horses.
How
and
can I
stuff.
squeeze some more money out of this? This guy's problems were actually kind of funny if you think about it.
He's passed on.
Spiders
this
are
is
so
fair game.
small. Why are you so scared?
Your dad kind of sounded funny.
Just commit. What's the problem?
He says, have any of you ever participated in therapy before?
Therapy's lit.
Therapy's lit? Do you go a lot?
I went when I was 20 years old at a very pivotal moment for me in my life, and I still use the lessons I learned today.
Well, is that the way you're supposed to do it, or are you supposed to keep going?
Yeah, you only went once?
If you get fixed like me, you don't have to. I went like 8 times.
Really? That's the limit?
What if you had one takeaway? What is one thing that people can use to apply to their own lives to make their lives better? You are a practicing medical representative, and everyone should use this.
It's okay to sweat?
Cool. I sure hope so. One takeaway. Can it be specific to me?
Well, I think that will help most people. So yeah.
I found out through those meetings that I had ADD, which explained a lot.
Oh, really?
Not terminal, but as far as why I was so bad in school and everything, it was like nice to have an explanation for like why do I just zone out and go a million different places even when I'm trying to focus. But anyway, making lists is something I still do all the time that I learned to do.
Yeah.
In
What does that
therapy.
mean?
Like,
Why does that help?
as far as just keeping track of what I have to do and forgetting things and like taking notes will keep me engaged. Things like that I just didn't do before, and since then I still keep little notebooks and I still do it.
It seems like the core of your discussion was you were scared you were stupid.
Yeah.
Was it really?
I was really stupid. Yeah, I was in college and I was like, Doc, why am I so dumb? I ain't getting it.
Hanson, you're a good note taker as well. Like,
Yeah.
why do you like that? Or like, do you ever go back and look at those notes?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you only live once. Like, why not take notes on the important things? Like,
You only live once. Why do I want to go back and look through old notes?
because it's enlightening to remember, like, oh, that's right.
That's how I felt.
This is how I felt in that relationship from my 20s. Like, that's a nice refresher. I remember being scared of that. I remember feeling that way. I feel like that's really helpful to the point that, like, I do it so much and, like, for work and stuff that I often feel like, why? I should take more notes. I should keep going this direction. Like, if I have a family reunion, I should take notes and, like, oh, my cousin said he works at this place, just to help remember that. Like, what's that going to hurt if I had a better memory of, like, oh, I remember you talked about once that one time you were scared of bees.
Do you find it to be a chore, or does it feel natural to you at this point?
I love it. Just because it's helpful. Like, I have a little note in my phone that just says, like, life in, like, my Evernote thing, and every once in a while, like, I'll look back to that, and it's like, oh, I've been keeping that for, like, the last 3 years, and, like, anytime I hear something, it's like, that's smart. I don't want to forget that. It's like, oh, I'll go back and read that.
I haven't been doing that. Can I just have yours?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure it'll apply.
I hope you like notes on comedy and filmmaking and God. I hope you're on board for those things.
Yeah, I like those 3 things.
Okay, great. You worship the comedy filmmaking God, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
No, 3 things, I meant 1 thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Leo, you might be stupid, but look, Dan Brook from Post Halls wants to hook you up with somebody. So how stupid can you be?
Not very. Well, unless you turn him down.
Great. Anyway,
Can I plug my date tonight?
no, please don't.
By the time the viewers are listening to this, I'll still be
Will she be
cleaning spaghetti sauce out of my hair.
Is she going to be on the
embarrassing mistake.
podcast?
Oh yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, everybody's welcome. I was in therapy a lot as a kid, and then I was like within the last year I went back, and then I felt guilty. I had 1 session, and I was like, I feel like I'm in 1 session. I'm kind of like scraping the bottom of my barrel, which I know is a very immature take, but it's like I feel like I'm wasting this person's time. Like, I'm pretty messed up, but I don't think like I have juicy enough things to unpack here.
We can help you.
Really?
Yeah.
How?
We could
We could
record
give you
those
a list.
sessions.
Oh, I
Give you a shortcut.
All right. That's
No,
not
I think
good.
everybody should go at some point. No,
Yeah,
so.
absolutely. Yeah, more than once. Let's
Yeah.
see. Is this good? Yeah, Aaron Dante from Louisville, Kentucky, the Lord's country, which is true, is the first Lord's country. He says, "Hey everybody, I've been watching your show for a long time. Thank you. Of all the hotly anticipated games coming up, I think the one that has my interest most piqued is Beyond Good and Evil 2. I never played the original, but after seeing the potential scale of the open world and intriguing elements such as ground to space flight, I have to say, I can't wait. I've been craving any info or speculation regarding the game, but I haven't found much. I've gone back and watched your super replay of Beyond Good and Evil 1, which was delightful, but for some reason, hype seems to be non-existent. I thought maybe it was for lack of news until I saw that the developers put up a live stream just a week before E3. Am I the only one who missed this? Why aren't people talking about this ambitious game more?
I think the fact that it was a week before E3 was bad.
Really? I feel like everyone
mean,
is so
kind of
eager
bad
for
timing.
any game stuff. I think it's just people are checked out because they don't think that whatever they're showing will represent the final game.
Yeah,
that's
we all
big.
know it's so early. It's years off at this point.
And
still.
also Michel Ancel, he can take his sweet time over there in Montpellier. I don't think he doesn't have a Kojima-like drive to I'm going to crank this out no matter what.
Do you think people would be more on board with it if they hadn't been burned with, say, No Man's Sky or Star Citizen? Since this pitch is you're going to be anybody doing space stuff forever, it's going to be your favorite.
Right, maybe. Or, Starlink Battle for Atlas. Can't walk down the
Exactly.
street without hearing kids talk about Starlink.
They burned us!
Maybe. And, maybe also it's just all we've seen is, that first trailer that we saw for so long that
Yeah.
looked very Beyond Good and Evil 2, and then it's suddenly it's kind of a prequel and doesn't star any of the characters you like except for a cryptic tease about Jade, and then also it's kind of just a series of tech demos, but hey, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, everybody.
Yeah.
There's nothing really to sink your teeth into.
That ape sure likes to curse.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we have to get excited about.
It's not; those did look good, technically, but it's not a real game yet.
Yeah. Do you guys want to go back to therapy here? Because RJ can help out.
Yeah.
Great.
RJ says, "Hey, I've been gaming for almost 20 years plus, and I've noticed in the past 2 years my gaming endurance, patience, and interest of playing games has decreased significantly. Maybe it's family, kids, or work, but at this point in my life, I always recall a quote from the movie Her, which summarizes my gaming state of mind, which says, quote, sometimes I feel I have just felt everything I'm ever going to feel from here on out. I'm not going to feel anything new, just lesser versions of what I've already felt." I wonder if the GI member can relate to this quote since they play so many games every year. Somebody want to cry?
Ebbs and flows
Yeah.
of my interest in games, for sure. There
you
are times
ever-
where I'm just I go home, I absolutely don't want to play anything at all, but I know I should.
Right.
Especially after E3 or a big convention or something, I do not want to play anything for a while.
I definitely play more
Except
games. Right.
Go on.
I definitely play more games than I would if I didn't have a job where I wanted to know about them, if only just for the end of the year top 50 discussion.
For sure. Yeah.
And I think because of that, I've been pleasantly surprised by a lot of games, and I would be writing more games off without playing
Yeah.
them.
But what about the core of this, which is, do you ever feel what are we doing? I'm never going to be more into a game than I was the first Crash Bandicoot when I was a kid.
I've have felt like that for sure. But Red Dead Redemption 2 is
Right.
okay, this I would say I like even more than The Last of Us, which I thought was going to be the peak of games forever.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I have periods like that, and then I'll play a game like Breath of the Wild was one.
Yes.
A couple years ago, there's this blew my mind, and I was like, oh, I feel like a new high. This is and maybe it was the drugs, but I felt
Smoking
like
the
I was
Kool-Aid.
really enjoying what they were smoking, and so. And then also what I was also going to say was you don't necessarily have to feel like you're pressured into playing what everybody else is playing. It's okay to go back to some of those old favorites just because they're your old favorites.
Right.
I went and played the Uncharted games this year, and it was a lot of fun.
Oh, really? Oh, that's fun. I do worry a little bit about that because I think of Breath of the Wild too, where it's that's one of my favorite gaming experiences I think ever was going through that game. But then I was thinking if I had a webcam on my face that entire time, maybe I would have smiled visibly 5 times, maybe teared up maybe a little bit once. Is that enough?
Well, wait. Does
Am I a
that
good
mean you
man?
need to smile more? I don't understand.
I don't know. It's just weird to be oh, that's peak gaming in recent memory, and it's
Genuinely, you could talk about this at therapy.
really?
Yeah.
But it costs a lot of money to just talk about Breath of the Wild. That's what the podcast is for.
Yeah,
This
we've
is
got
my therapy.
insurance for now.
Oh, neat.
So what are you comparing it to? Movies, where you think you smile more at movies?
No, just seeing family.
For the first time?
Yeah. When you're going through customs and you have to smile for the photo that they take for
Oh,
you.
I love customs.
That always brings a smile to my face.
The
now that I think
happiest
about it.
I ever am.
Some days weekends I'll just go in and out of customs.
It tells you to look up at the camera,
Yeah.
and there's like a countdown, presumably, for when it's going to be taken. There's like no feedback.
Yeah.
I have never had one where I don't look like I am so angry. Mm-hmm. And I'm not angry, I'm just tired most of the time, but like...
Yeah, I'm tickled pink by people around me that do smile big because now it's like, it's not that I'm fighting the man, but it's like, I'm not going to smile. Like, I'm going to have a flat reaction. You ain't getting a smile out of me, Mr. Machine.
Yeah.
Because what's
Right
the
on.
point of a smile? Like, here you go, government records.
Yeah.
This guy's happy.
And then
So
you think
true.
about how you're sticking it to the man and how happy you are about that and crack a smile. And you're like, oh, damn it.
One more time. I always hold up the customs line by chanting one more time after they've taken my photo. I'm trying to shove the paper back in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Play Ape out.
Yep. Dominic Sachoki from Chicago says, hey, I love the Dreamcast. Here are my 5 favorite Dreamcast games. Number 1. Oh, I'm sorry. Number 5, Shenmue 1. Number 4, Sonic Adventure 2. Number 3, Illbleed. Number 2, Rez. Number 1, Shenmue 2. Also, Grant from Englewood, Colorado. I can't tell if he's joking. He writes in, he's like,
no.
he's like, seriously, have you guys ever played this Dreamcast game called Illbleed? It's so good. And I was just curious if you guys ever played it. We did a super replay of that game, and I haven't watched that super replay. Was it fun, Quark?
Yeah, you should watch it. It's really fun.
It's
yeah.
super funny.
You'll like it.
Who's on that one? Is Dan Reichert?
Reichert's on it.
Oh, is
Timmy's on it. I'm
Oh.
on it sometimes.
Oh,
Timmy?
cool.
Yeah.
Timmy Turee?
Oliphant?
Yeah.
Timmy Turner.
Uh-oh.
Aaron from New Jersey. Shut up. No, that was the face of I can't find the name, but then you notice the smile? That was me finding the name.
Oh.
Aaron from New Jersey.
Office Joker.
Better than Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, you should find names more often. Just look through a phone book.
Oh, hang on.
Those
What?
1001 baby name books, that would just be an utter delight for you.
Kimberly. I've heard that name before.
Aaron from New Jersey says, hey, Danson Hansen and the Reiner Squad. It's funny how the conversation on replay can sometimes be similar to the in-game dialogue. In the following prompts, try to guess whether the phrase was from a character during a replay episode or a commentator from that replay.
Interesting.
Oh, okay.
Isn't this good? Also, no 4 paragraphs to explain the game. Just wada bing, wada boom,
Yeah.
you know?
Shame on everyone else who's sent to the game. I agree.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, Final Fantasy VIII, cool it. No, it was great. I
That wasn't even a game.
Hanson, I can't believe that you said lore. This seems more of a bore.
No,
rude.
no.
Very
that was not
rude.
me. That was not me.
How
That was
dare
an
you.
unnamed person based on a wonderful email that somebody sent in. This week.
Unbelievable.
Freaking Hanson. Disrespectful.
Okay. In the replay for Spyro, A Hero's Tale,
Pretty new one.
someone said, it's pulsating with evilness. Was that Ember the Dragon or Leo Vader
Ooh.
in Spyro, A Hero's Tale?
I love that I have no idea.
That's Ember the Dragon. It's
I think I'd say Ember.
Leo?
I'll say me.
Ember the Dragon.
So that's got me all over though, right?
Yeah.
Yep, it does. It does. You always say that.
Yeah.
This office. Okay. Shrek Super Slam. Quote, I don't want to see dragons going to bed. Is that Shrek or Ben Hansen?
I bet that's Ben Hansen.
Ben Hanson.
Shrek.
That's Ben Hansen. I don't know what the context is for that.
Seems fairly self-evident.
Sonic.
Oh, I wonder what they were doing on screen when I said that thing.
And what my opinion was about it.
Lost to time, some say. Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 replay. Quote, how long is this going to go on? Was that Sonic the Hedgehog or Dan Reichert?
Sonic the
Oh,
Hedgehog.
that'd be amazing if it was Sonic.
It was Sonic. It's got to
Dan Reichert.
Sonic the Hedgehog. Kingdom Hearts 2. I didn't read these ahead of time. This is hilarious. Kingdom Hearts 2, quote, bring the boom. Was that Mushu or John Vignacchi?
Oh. John
and this
Vignacchi.
is-
It's got to be John Vignacchi.
Did we do him?
Yeah, John Vignacchi came in for a Kingdom
Oh,
Hearts
okay.
2 replay.
Well, it's probably him, right?
Bring the
That sounds like something
boom.
you'd say.
Yeah, that's Johnny V all over.
That is a Johnny V original. Bring
That's
the boom,
right,
Johnny
Johnny.
V. Mushu.
He's bringing the boom to Nintendo as we speak.
Oh, that's true. Wait, is that where he is at?
I don't know. I thought maybe.
Yeah.
Disney.
Is that what it is?
He's at Nintendo.
He's at Nintendo. You're right.
Bringing the boomsticks.
Yep. Don't worry about it. Just praise the machine. In Crash: Mind Over Mutant. Is this Dr. Neo Cortex or Andrew Reiner?
Dr. Neo Cortex.
Neo Cortex on that one.
Andrew Reiner.
Andrew Reiner.
Okay.
SpongeBob SquarePants: Battle for Bikini Bottom. This isn't that old, Leo.
Not that old.
Not that old.
The quote is, "I loved those spoons like they were my children." Was that Plankton or Leo Vader?
Sounds like a Leo Vader.
Plankton.
Plankton.
Plankton!
Really?
Way to go.
I've never loved. Trick question.
Oh, you went to therapy.
Oh, you
Cured me of
understand.
that human sickness.
Okay, email of the week. What do you guys like?
I like the therapy one.
I was going to say, I liked the therapy one. I
Oh,
kept
really?
coming back.
You're right. I mean, that game is so
The game is
clever,
really good.
though.
Yeah.
I really think that's an
Solid game.
incredible.
What was the therapy one again?
The
was just, have
question
you gone
is,
to
have any of
therapy?
you ever gone to therapy? P.S. I really like Creature Comforts, so they have good taste.
You got to stop putting the game at the end because then we feel bad for giving it to the game because it's the last one we just heard.
You're right.
If you put it
It's
in the middle,
game.
it would have won immediately.
It's the game, right? I
It's
like
probably
the
the
therapy one too. But Cork, where you leaning?
Yeah, I think the game's
EA
really
Sports style.
Absolutely.
It's in the game.
Aaron from New Jersey, congratulations. And congratulations finally getting the East Coast of the United States up on the big
Thank
map.
God.
Give it its due. Give it its due.
Is that just a population thing, or just we popular out
It's
there?
all North Carolina, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. It's just
Bleeding
spreading.
into Maine.
All right, podcastagainformer.com for all emails in the future. Hey, and now get ready for something weird because we have an interview that isn't recorded for a podcast, but we're airing it on a podcast. This is an interview from Infinity Ward with Joel Emsley, Jeffrey Smith, and Mark Grigsby talking about developing Call of Duty 4 and also talking about the return or like leaving Infinity Ward to go to Respawn and then coming back from Respawn. But it's them talking about like their thoughts on Apex Legends and stuff. It's just a very good, frank discussion. So stay tuned for that, everybody.
Great. Go back in time a little bit.
There's Joel. All right. So yeah, it's basically some high-level stuff about Call of Duty 4 and kind of its legacy. So simple one first. What was the feeling like in the studio during development?
I've got 4?
Yes.
Oh, I can answer this.
Okay.
And this is Ben Hansen jumping in just to explain that the voice you're now hearing is Joel Emsley, the studio art director. Spared no expense.
It was coming out of World War II. We didn't know if we were going to be able to do a modern game, and I was actually working on a Jagdpanzer, into Call of Duty 4. It was still called Call of Duty 4 at that point, but it was a moment where we really wanted to take down Halo, really bad, and we wanted to create a Halo killer, and part of the studio went off and was working on like another game to do that. And so it was a weird, making Call of Duty 4 was a weird moment in time where the studio was kind of two teams working on different projects. And then eventually halfway through the project, they cut bait and said, let's dig in on, what we know, because we got the go ahead to go modern. And once we had that, it was just, okay, well now we've got the freedom to do all these toys and stuff, but it was a hustle. And it was also, Call of Duty wasn't a big deal until then. When that was you want to talk about surprise, like you're asking surprise earlier. Yeah. That was surprising when we showed up to that E3, which is the airplane hangar E3.
Yeah, that was a weird one.
It was not a big deal. It was like everybody was saying, "Oh, great game! This looks awesome," but you didn't think anything of it. Just thought, "Oh, fantastic! They like it. Fantastic! They think it looks good." I even remember showing up to they had like a single player like launch night or something at Universal City Walk, and they had all this area roped off, and they had I think it was Army Reserve marching around the GameStop or whatever.
We were signing posters. And
we're ready to sign. We're ready for the hordes of fans to show up. Nobody showed up.
Yeah.
I remember standing with an earshot of two journalists, and one of them said, "Man, I feel sorry for these Infinity Ward guys." And then shortly, I kind of was bummed out, and I thought, okay, well, I mean, at least people like the game. And then we had the beta, and that all of a sudden the game just started really, taking off, and that was a surprising moment. So the feeling in the studio was we were excited to make something different, but it was
We were
just
uncertain.
Yeah, we didn't know
it was going to be a blockbuster the way it was.
When we always do this thing called Friday Night Fights, where we all play MP on Friday nights.
And this is the voice of Modern Warfare's multiplayer designer, Jeffrey Smith.
We knew something was there when we're all getting calls from girlfriends and wives of where are you on Friday night, and it's 10:30, 11 o'clock, and people just aren't
Crash
they're
was
just
a
not
total
stopping
mess,
playing.
and you could fall out of it.
Yeah,
This asshole wouldn't sew up his Geo.
but people were opting in to just play the whole night, and that's when
that was bad.
Well, we knew we had a good game.
Yeah, I think that's when it started turning, and we're like,
Just didn't know that it was going to be as successful as it was.
What led it? Was it just the change in setting kind of motivated the team, or what was the magical ingredient here?
It was creative freedom, and that was the first time we introduced motion capture.
Yeah.
We could actually go out, and we traveled out to 29 Palms. We hung out with tanks, started learning about modern contemporary military. All of our thought processes was like old rusty World War II stuff, and it was basically talking to soldiers that were up in years, and they're recalling things. But I think what was interesting about going into modern warfare was that you could go to 29 Palms and hang out with active service members and talk to them about their experiences. So I remember I was doing the Abrams tank, and I had a Marine that could completely rip my head off. He was a tank guy, and he said, "You're going to call this tank War Pig, right?" So that was my tank in Iraq, and that's what you're going to call your tank. And I'm like, I'm not going to argue with you, dude. And you can see it. It's War Pig. Like that was his thing. And he said, "I want AC/DC in the cabin because that's what we rolled to over the berms." And I'm like, all right. They told us crazy stories about he ran over some dude's car one day by accident and said sorry and just kept going. But it was that type of interaction with people that actually were fresh, just there, and we have that same experience on this one. I think there's something about getting that information.
I actually had an observation a while back that when we were doing COD 2, I thought it was a really solid game. All my friends were playing Halo, and I couldn't convince them to give COD 2 a try. And I was like, why? I was like, oh, well, you're this really cool spaceman who's shooting stuff. It's really hard for me to convince them to be cool with like a wooden gun and like a pot on your head. And it was only, I think, when we went to modern where you felt cool. And I think there's a little something there where you actually feel cool playing, like you kind of put yourself in the situation. That I think that kind of turned stuff. But.
Do you remember like the big pivots in development? Do you remember big meetings where the game went a certain way instead of another?
We had a lot of problems with COD 4 because we were going from historic-based levels and content to made-up stuff. And I remember early on, a lot of us just kept thinking, this feels too James Bond. This doesn't feel legit. And it took us a long time to internalize that and become okay with creating new things and still making them feel real. Mm-hmm. And so single player took a lot of restarts and rejiggering to kind of get a formula down.
That we had to cut bait on that were development for like 6 months each.
Yeah.
And and then somewhere like a month before that E3, it was like Kriegler and Tsunami had Todd Su had our art director and one of our lead artists at the time. They kind of figured out how to approach the night vision and Bog A, and that once they hit that and they lit it, and then they turned the lights off and went to the NVGs. So there was you're asking like an aha moment. That was a shift, a pivot.
Yeah. Right before E3, that was the biggest shift.
It was real
you know what
fast,
it was? It was that yellow sodium light that suddenly like lit it up, and
but it unlocked something.
Yeah,
like it was interesting.
So there were 2 levels that you kind of had to cut after 6 months of development.
Yeah,
do you remember what they were?
It was
Sea Knight,
Descent.
And this is the voice of animator Mark Grigsby, who obviously you might recognize as Sergeant Griggs from that game.
It was Descent and Sea Knight Defend.
Yeah.
And that was during the development of the Halo killer that he was talking about.
Yeah, and I think what was weird is they didn't quite. It's like our designers hadn't figured out how to design for modern yet. So they were building these kind of. The Descent was this huge bombed out, like a J-dammed bunker.
Yeah.
And it was a circular experience, almost like, I guess the Gulag would have been the good version of it later. but it was a descent down into it with fast ropes and stuff, and then it was very James Bondish.
Yeah. So it sounds like a level in GoldenEye.
It did feel like that, didn't it? Yeah, it
just
felt
went Silo, right?
But when we got to the bottom, we were like, "What do we do now?" And I think that maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm pulling it out of my ass, but maybe that's where the Folsom from Glilog came from.
Maybe, and then the Sea Knight Defend, we had almost a Black Hawk Down scenario where we were trying to make our way through civilians, and that didn't work out great. And then you would get to the Sea Knight, and you had to circle saw your way out, and then you guys reused those animations at the end of the game for cutting
that's right.
into the...
We did try to interact with civilians in COD 4, and it just didn't hold up fidelity-wise.
And we tried to do stretcher bearer combat, but that gave way to the
I think we
wounded carry for
Yeah,
Scout
we
Sniper.
figured it out in MW2, but we had to cut bait on that too.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that hit the cutting room floor.
Yeah. I'm still a little bit confused. So it started as there were two different projects in the studio first, and the first you said you were working on a Panzer. Is that the code name, or you're working on a?
Oh, he was just making a
I
War
was
tank.
working on a tank, and then they decided to work on another game. It was almost like a conceptual, like a prototype.
What do you say? You were just working on a tank that was going to be in this other.
So yeah, I was working on before we made the decision to go to modern.
Yeah.
The studio was working on another Modern Warfare, another World War II game.
Gotcha.
So that would have been Call of Duty 4. And sometime in that moment, we got the go-ahead to work on a Modern Warfare game. At the same time, a small group of people went off to make a prototype of another game also, so that we could develop two at the same time.
And now it's more sci-fi?
Yeah, that was total sci-fi. But it was obvious that it split the talent of the team up, and the parts were not. I mean, we're the result. The whole, I think, Infinity Ward experience, like what we make, is the sum of the parts. Like all the components work together, and that's saying the same thing for now, but even more so back then. It was a smaller crew. When you had components missing, it threw the whole thing off balance, and that's why it was realized pretty quickly. Thank God, and they brought everybody back together, and then we dug in on Modern Warfare.
Were any of those ideas that were scrapped from the sci-fi one reused in Infinite Warfare, or like resurfaced?
We weren't here. So.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah,
I don't know if anybody had any idea about that.
I kind of think in Extinction, maybe.
Yeah.
There
I
might have
think
been
some of it made its way into that.
Oh, because it was aliens and stuff.
Yeah.
I think some of the mechanics looked similar.
Like the four-legged creatures.
That's cool. That was neat. I like what they did with that.
Yeah.
I'm pulling that out of my ass too, so I don't know.
Yeah, it could
I
be
wasn't there.
connected.
I wasn't here for that either.
Outsiders off their observation.
Did what was like the most? When did you guys realize how big COD 4 was when it shipped? Like, was there a moment y'all remember where you have that holy shit moment?
I did, but it was more of like MW2.
Oh, really?
I was wearing like an MW2 T-shirt going through Heathrow Airport, and like there was like 5 security guys that were busting my chops, asking me when the next DLC was going to come. At that time, we weren't like, we were still feel like we were underdogs, like trying to get to be a household name, and then
We
it
always
kind of was
felt
like
underdogs.
Yeah, and then it was
Still
like
do for
I
some
was like, holy
reason.
cow, is this actually a household name?
Yeah.
I had a COD 4 hat on at Cost Plus, and the checkout girl was like, my boyfriend won't stop playing that, and I was like, thanks, sorry.
You start getting wives and girlfriends saying,
Oh, yeah, we've had that a few
ruining my
times.
life.
Yeah.
Then you're in this. You've got a sticky game.
For COD 4,
What about you?
When I realized that it was really something was when we won the Game of the Year at the DICE Awards.
Oh, yeah.
And just the ramp up of the amount of copies that we were selling at that point. And we were at the table for the award for Game of the Year, and then my song started playing for the in-game credits. And they were like, and Call of Duty 4 wins. I was like, oh, my fucking song's playing too, and I'm about to win an award. Okay.
This is great.
This is just an award. It was cool. That was my moment. I was like, all right, we have arrived. That's pretty cool.
It was for me Modern Warfare 2 as well. My wife and I took a trip before we had kids, and we never would take trips because we're both like crazy into our jobs, and so we took a trip, Highlands of Scotland. I'm in the middle of nowhere in this place, not in the middle of nowhere, but of this place called Inverness in Scotland. And I went to the mall there, and it was Call of Duty. You're asking me about the Wii.
Yeah.
The Wii was number one. Xbox, PlayStation. It was just like bam, 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 like right down. PC was like number one across the board on Modern Warfare 2, and I was just like, holy crap, that's crazy. I mean, we're out in the middle of nowhere, and this thing is, the Scots are into it now, and they're very civilized. It was a really cool moment, but it was wild, crazy experience.
Yeah.
What was your reaction the first time you saw the nuke scene?
You guys go, and I love telling this story.
I mean, I got to see it kind of step by step, but I remember we were all freaked out that we were going to show it in the trailer. We're like, "You're ruining everything!" And then
spilling the beans.
And then one of our bosses was saying, "Oh, this happens in movie trailers all the time, and you can't make those connections while you watch it." So, but we were a little freaked out that we were going to show it right then.
Did you animate it?
No, I don't even think it was animated. It was just the player motion model just moving along.
We probably used the shell shock. We used shell shock for everything, for like messing around.
I fired it up, and I'm like, "What is this bullshit?" And then I looked at somebody, and I'm like, "Well, I get up, right?" They're like, "No, you fucking
just
die." I'm like, this is gameplay. What is this? I can't win. Like, why do I want to play a game I can't win? That I was so pissed off.
Our boss at the time, when I said the same thing to him,
I didn't know what I was saying. Obviously,
he looked at me and was like, "What? It's gonna be fucking awesome. Don't worry about it." I was like, "Nah, dude, this is fucking garbage." No, it's gonna be good.
The nuke blast was awesome, but the aftermath, I'm like, this is garbage.
This is stupid.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
turned out to be okay.
Smarter people knew what they were doing. You could tell.
Did that moment pop in development and like all gillied up? Like, did you have an idea of what was going to be the lasting legacy or like the standout moments in single player?
Ghillie, I was so spun up on doing a ghillie suit. I remember, getting our advisor to make the ghillie suit, which we pulled out of the archives for this game and redid it.
Oh, really?
So the ghillie suit in the game now that we did for one of our I guess you like buy one of the versions and you get skins. So that's the original ghillie suit.
That's
so just
musky as hell.
Rescan and redone. It's the same one. It's like downstairs still. But I was so excited to actually get the opportunity to. I was all about getting it to blend into the environment, and the shaders at the time weren't fantastic, so they kept changing the lighting, and I kept having to change the ghillie suit to match. It kept ruining my shot, and I was working on this perfect blend where you could just like crouch and you can't see him. And I was all about that because we were doing multiplayer, and I'm like, "Oh my god, we gotta get a ghillie suit that actually works so I can shoot at you guys and you can't tell where I'm shooting you from." So I was all about it, but I think I finally hit the end of my rope with somebody changing the lighting, and I went and I barked at somebody, and I really bummed him out. I forgot who it was, and I hurt his feelings really bad. And I'm like, "Keep fucking changing the goddamn lighting." I'm not kidding. I recalibrated the ghillie suit maybe just under 20 times because they couldn't make up their mind on what vision set and all this other stuff. Now everything's physically based, so you don't have to worry about it. It just works. It's
right.
Great.
When they showed it on stage, nobody knew how painful that scene was.
Oh my god! But you had a feeling. There was a feeling about that level. I don't know if it was the mystery you get of the abandoned places, and there was something about that environment that was so spooky. And then you had this ghillie suit working. I don't think it was the first time anyone did a ghillie suit.
Yeah.
Did you animate that character?
That was mocap. It's good. That was Paul.
Yeah. Good.
It's good.
Yeah.
So with moments like the nuke and with all gillied up, did the team kind of feel like they had to one-up themselves with Modern Warfare 2? Because we had some pretty bombastic moments in there, too.
I feel like we always go... we crank things to 11 on our follow-up titles. So COD 1 had great pacing and downtime and quiet moments and pace. And COD 2, they're like, "Oh, well, everybody likes the intensity. Let's crank it up." And a lot of COD 2 was really intense. Go back to COD 4, nice pacing. What happened in MW2? Crank it up again. And it's like, we don't learn, So it was always kind of funny. But when you're in it, you don't quite have that 30,000 view. Views
During
here.
development, we were working on Cliffhanger. I was working on it with one of the lead designers for the climbing and then soap catching you as you fall. On development on the other single player levels, they kept having the player fall and then get caught, fall and get caught, and fall and get. I was like, dude,
what, like helicopters crashing?
Three times?
It's like we need to change this up. The player feels like. So let me bring that back. He feels like a wuss. You know what I mean? He's like, he needs to be strong and stop falling all the place. But they changed it up a little bit, but there was still a lot of falling and catching the player. Yeah.
Do you think those types of scenes inspired something like No Russian? Just kind of those
No
water.
Russian polarized the studio.
Oh,
When it was happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a side of the studio that felt that it should be played from the perspective of like a security guard that got caught up in it. Then there was the other side that liked the way that it was going. And then I remember I was doing all the civilians for No Russian, and I just wouldn't. There was a point in time where we were discussing how gory do you get with the people that are getting hit, and I pulled back and I said, you don't need it. It's just people are getting tagged and there's squibs going off. It's all good. And then my wife looked at it. She's all, where's all the blood and guts? And I'm like, well, we didn't do it. She's like, here. She called me out. She calls me on my bullshit. It's pretty funny. But she looks at things with a different lens. She's a lawyer.
Not your typical bullshit to be called out.
She doesn't mess around, man. But she's a good gut check on stuff.
Gotta give those innocents some gore.
She's like, where's the blood and guts? And I'm like, I don't think it needs it. She's like, I think it does.
Wow.
So I disagree with you.
Mark, was there like a most memorable day in development on that first game that stands out to you?
On COD 4?
Yeah.
When I came back from working on the Halo Killer game, and then I was like, I was really against going to motion capture. I'm a purist when it comes to animation. Like, if you can't really animate to a level of motion capture, then you probably shouldn't be animated. That's probably too harsh, but I feel that way. I felt that way then. So when we were like, we need to get more animations and we need to do motion capture, I was like, I'm not doing that. I'll work on view models. So you guys do the motion capture. So when I came back from HK, I started on the M4, and then the other animator that was working on view models saw. He's like, "Oh my God, I'm so happy that you're working on view models now, Mark." I was like, "Okay, yeah, cool, whatever. I'll keep going with this. I'm not doing the motion capture." So that was one of the most memorable moments. Refusing motion capture.
Yeah.
Denied.
Here's a weird question. Why did you decide to come back to Infinity Ward?
This is going to be all three of us, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
I heard, were you the first one to come back?
I was the first one, but I felt like I gave Respawn like a really solid go, like 7 years, and I was just getting a little bit burnt out on, it's interesting. It's like the industry went to high speed movement and advanced mechanics and stuff, and I was always a really hardcore like Counter-Strike player, and that's why I loved Modern Warfare. Mm-hmm. And so I remember a point in time where I was just getting kind of exhausted by the whole, even all the wall running, all this other stuff, and jetpacks and stuff, and the palette and all that stuff. And the industry's kind of moved that way. There's a lot of that going on, and I guess for me it was I saw Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered, and I started having these thoughts in my head. I was like, I really missed that. I missed that setting. I missed that genre. I missed that type of gameplay, that immersive environment, because it looks real to me. I missed that. And I watched that, and Dave Stoll, or their studio director, he'd give me a call like sometime back, and I was at like our former art director's like going away party, and we kind of reconnected there, and Dave hit me up and said, look, we're if you're ever interested in coming back, we've got a spot for you if you're interested. It would be nice to work together again. And I'm like, after I finished I basically told him, I said, well, what if I finish out my current project and then, do my job and get it done to the best of my ability, and then we'll talk. And then, once I got to that point in time, which was, I guess it was with Christmas vacation 2016. I looked at Remastered, and I was looking at the game. I looked at Infinite Warfare, and I'm like, man, the production value of this game is just, there's so much potential, and I could see, that we were talking about that engine earlier about it's like 5 years in development. Now, parts of that engine were alive and well in Infinite Warfare, and you could see it. Like I could see the tech that was there. It was unrefined still, and brand, really new in that moment. But man, it really was convincing me that, I went back and I asked Dave. The moment in time was when I asked him. I said, I have this really weird feeling. I didn't even actually hear any rumors. I just kind of guessed.
Really?
It seemed logical that Infinity Ward. It seemed like Remastered was such a. It made a statement, and it seemed like the community and everybody else reacted to it maybe the same way I was. And it did seem at the time that the gaming industry or the gaming community in general was kind of like wanting to go back to stuff like that. And I think even looking at other games that were more believable, I asked him. I said, if you're thinking of doing a new Modern Warfare game, I'm really interested. And he kind of, I wasn't NDA'd, so he was kind of hesitant, but he said, yeah, we're thinking about it. And I went, I'm really serious now. I would love to be a part of that. And I told him that was Modern Warfare was, no doubt, like some of the best development years of my life. I had the most fun, and it's turned out that way. Thank God. It's been like a high point in my career working on this project. I'm not bullshitting because my boss is saying it's true. It's been a hell of a ride.
How much of it, this is very superficial, how much of it was the name itself? I know this is a terrible name, but it was called like Current Combat, or it was just called Call of Duty, just a full reboot. Like, do you think there's something so nostalgic about just that name, Modern Warfare, that's really a core reason you came back?
No, I came back to work on a realistic contemporary shooter. I was thinking in my head. I mean, I didn't care what it was called. I didn't even really care if it wasn't called Call of Duty. It didn't matter to me. I just wanted to work on that type of a game.
Yeah.
Whatever name you put on it, it's fine. At the end of the day, how much do I love this thing, and how long am I playing it? That means you're making a good game. That's what mattered.
Pat, what was people's reaction when some old timers came back to the studio? This is the current co-studio head for Infinity Ward, Patrick Kelly.
It was a combination of emotions. I think people were very excited. I think they were a little anxious. They weren't sure what that would mean in terms of the culture and whatnot of the studio. A little nervous because, for all of us around the franchise, when we look at and we've made these games, you end up naturally comparing so much of what gets done critically against some of the work that these guys did. And the one thing I'll tell you, like when Joel immediately when he showed up, one of the things I just loved was there was just such a pure focus on the content, and he was so unfiltered in his feedback about it, but in a great way. And so it was like so that was really great.
He's like that too, which is great.
Also, not to kiss your guys' ass in front of you or anything, but you seem like a nice, humble group. I could be completely wrong, right? But if it was like three huge egos walking back in the studio, I see. That could be a disaster.
Which two?
He put himself in the game, for Christ's sake.
I'll say this again. It's my fault. I did it, and I did it again.
And he did it again.
He's making his way back in the game. Sergeant Griggs lives. Even though he got whacked on that bridge, I mean, we brought him back to life.
Wound?
It was. It's a through and through.
It's a new
it was
price.
Clean shot. He walked off that bridge.
I don't know. I think that the studio has always been super hypercritical of each other's stuff and things in general. Like, we're never happy with anybody's game, let alone our own game. And that's always steered us well, putting stuff out, because, you can't really design by committee or listen to all these different voices. At some point, you have to make some calls, and we are so critical of our own stuff that I think it kind of keeps you humble. And for everything that you make that is good, there's a bunch of people that don't like it. So I don't think you can really drink your own Kool-Aid and kind of grow and continue to get better. I think that some people will plateau and kind of cruise the rest of their careers, but if you're not growing, then you're just dying, I think. And so we're always trying to get better at different things, like Joel taking on photogrammetry. It's a whole new thing for us, and different you're always trying to find new techniques to trick people into thinking the game is better.
Hey, I've embraced Motion capture, finally.
Hey, there we go.
Hey.
It's took a little time.
Like a cool juggernaut suit.
Yeah.
But if you kind of think you're the and think that's it, you're done.
Yeah.
You're not gonna make anything new. And I think that it's one big thing, especially on this title, is creating disruption and creating situations where people are uneasy, and making people think differently than they normally do. And that's the only way you're going to get a different result. And so if you think that you're great and think that you're the best at everything, you're never going to kind of push yourself to think differently. I think
Well, nobody's going to want to work with you.
Well, there's that.
There's a really weird balance, and I don't even know how I can articulate it that well. But it's like humble's good, but in an environment like this, on a project that this is important, that getting things right is so important. It's difficult you have to be confident, but at the same time, confident and respectful. I don't know how to perfectly describe it, but
it's an internal.
It's like you know what you're
thing,
doing, but you're still listening to people,
Right.
and you're not taking your confidence and turning it into ego. I think that's when it gets really disruptive. Like it gets toxic if you have someone that they have that confidence that becomes ego because they're not listening to anyone and they just keep pushing forward, and they, you're giving them red flags and they ignore everyone.
And you've seen some of that in the industry?
Well, it happens sometimes. I think, because I think someone who gets in that position, they get unbalanced and they just think that they're, being really decisive. I think that's difficult. But everyone around here has we have a lot of gotcha moments where, we'll be passionately backing a decision or something, or like a thing, and then we call each other out. I think it's really important the way that we're able to kind of call each other out on stuff, and it's not there's a good thing where we trust each other enough where it doesn't get personal. We can really go at it sometimes, really go at it.
So you were kind of the canary in the Activision coal mine. Is that how it works? And then you sounded the alarm for everybody else?
No,
coming here.
Yeah.
No, I think that we all kind of, found our own kind of things.
Yeah. It had to be just like it was when we left. It really had to be your own decision.
Yeah.
And
it's important stuff.
It's important because I would never want to go someplace and then tell a bunch of my friends and sell them on an idea and then have them show up and it not work out. So that in that respect, you have to let people make their own decisions. So I was the first to come over here, and it's basically, I think that piqued people's interest. And when that happened,
but we're all older now, and we have mortgages and families, and the weight of those decisions is very heavy.
Nobody came to it lightly.
And leaving other places feels, if you leave a bunch of coworkers that you've worked with for 12 years, it's like breaking up with 60 girlfriends. So it's a hard thing to do, but
but I met Pat.
When you have that passion of where you want to, of a project, you could sink your next 3 years into, when the passion hits you, you have to go with it, I think.
Yeah. When every one of us met Pat, it was go time.
Yeah.
That's all it took.
That's very kind of you to say.
Well,
thank you.
He's
got the fire.
He has a kindred
He's got the
spirit
fire.
to what we all are passionate about, which is one being number one. He says that I have the ego, but
I'm just being
He's the verbal manifestation of our ego.
What these guys all said individually. Sorry, I cut you off.
No. I was just going to say it was a passion thing that was all similar to.
It's fire.
Yeah.
It's good fire.
Anyway,
each one of these guys, when I met with them, in their own unique way and independent of one another, were so intense about questions they had in terms of hey, look, I gotta ask exactly how are you making this and things like that, because there's a lot of things I want to do completely different. There's a lot of stuff I want to reinvent. There's a lot of different things. They were so bold about what their aspirations were, which was another way of them saying hey, this better not be some formulaic thing in any way.
Yeah.
And each one of them, when they came here, I told you guys that, Jeff overhauled every bit of the movement and gun handling in this game. And Griggs, the first thing he did was he overhauled everything you see with that gun on screen. You'll see every one of those is completely new, fresh, how it works, all the realism. All of the way we make the art in the game was completely overhauled by Joel. And they were like, okay, I want to do all these different things. And it was just because every one of them, I remember I was at the interview with Griggs. And it's only the second time in my career, and I'm an old guy, so I've been in a lot of interviews where you sit down, you meet him and stuff like that. The waiter comes over at a restaurant, and she said, can I get you a drink? And I said, yeah, sparkling water. And he goes, yeah, what do you have for beer? And I'm like, oh, this guy's got balls. And then she goes, you want the 16 or the 32? He's like, the 32. What is that? I was like, okay. So anyway, we're talking, and I said to him, hey, look, dude, if you are interested in coming and making the very best animation work you've ever done in your entire life, I want you to come here. But I really mean like the best you've ever seen. Mm-hmm. And he goes, well, I can't answer that for you the way you want me to answer it. I'll tell you this, I'll make the best animation you've ever seen. And I was looking at him, and he goes to me, because he goes, dude, the way it is with me is every single animation I have ever made, within an hour, I look back at it and say, I could do that better. I could change that. He goes, so my bar is just, it never, I can't help that. So he goes, I can tell you that in the moment, maybe it will be, and then it'll change. And the thing I've noticed working with these guys is that that's been really, really wonderful is, as artists and creatives, you're never, I think it's very common to never be satisfied with your own work product. Mm-hmm. And they never, ever, ever are. I've seen Joel on a Friday say, like, look at this, it's fucking awesome! And on Monday, I destroyed it.
Or it's more that he fixed it all over the weekend.
Right. Yeah.
And now he's happy with it.
To go with what Pat's saying, it's like the people that were already here at Infinity Ward, I think it was like talking about the engine that's been in development. Mm-hmm. They're a crew of people here that are absolutely incredible, that totally at the top of their game. And it was, I'm not just saying that to be a kiss ass, it was really Pat saying I overhauled the art, but that was really because I saw this person working on this, and I went, wow, what are you doing? And I went around the studio, and I just went on a discovery mission, and I found people from all walks of life doing different things and doing, all in their own way, cutting edge things. And when you're in a position like Pat luckily enabled all of us that came back to acknowledge those things, see them, and then help unlock those people. So really what we're looking at is the studio is really working at a level I've never seen before, because we unlocked this potential that was here. Mm-hmm.
But I actually think that
communication too.
I was thinking about this a little while ago. I actually think that maybe deep down, wherever these people, everyone kind of, where they all started and where they came from, I think that what drove them to come to the studio was the Modern Warfare series. Yeah. And that they haven't had the opportunity to work on that. And I feel like when we started working on this, slowly but surely, everybody started kind of coalescing into, holy crap, we're making a Modern Warfare game. And you could just see, the smiles in the hallways, and we'd have these milestones and these little victories, and it's like it's starting to get there, and it's building and building, and you could just see, like, we'd have these little victories, and people would just walk down the hall with a bit bigger smile, and people were putting in some extra hours, and I think that all the talent they needed was here. Maybe we pushed them in one direction or another, but I think it's the Modern Warfare title really
everybody's
kind of
gotten
together.
Caught up in what it
we have a thing that we say with the people in the team to that end, and not in a mean way, but don't say this is the way we've always done it, because you've never done work like you were expecting that we do. You know what I mean?
He'll come in and derail a whole thing.
Okay.
And then
he'll come in and derail
a whole thing.
But then we'll make it better.
But it's because he saw something that we didn't see, and as frustrating as it is, it's never failed us, because It's ratcheted up
Did
the
you
quality.
see that screenshot, by the way, with the MP7?
Yeah, I know. We got that.
Okay.
I got it for your screenshots. For your,
Oh,
we just had
a finger was not in the right place.
But he catches details that slip back. So there's been some next level that's been happening. It has to do with the way that all the studio leadership kind of interacts with each other, and like having that attitude of like, you think that's good enough? Well, it's okay, but I think you could do better.
Yeah. You're not trying to be dicks about it. You're just genuinely trying to like.
It's hard not.
One
to
of
be
the
a dick
challenges I
about
think you run into, and it was very natural with these guys because they had been away from this franchise for a long time, is you always have this. It's almost an innovator's dilemma where you want to disrupt, but not just for the sake of disrupting. You know what I mean? I think it's very easy, especially with something that's been as successful as Call of Duty's been historically, to find yourself in a rut where you're like, oh, you're doing these things because these things have worked. And I do believe that returning with Modern Warfare, you of course you hope, and people who play it will be the ultimate judges, but you've got to challenge yourself on all of these things and making sure that people are prepared to be uncomfortable and be disrupted from that comfort zone and making what they make is something that has been critical that these guys have brought.
And how is that kind of? It seems like there's almost like this perfect storm of the gang getting together. You know, we had this.
it is really weird.
This highly motivated existing core team that has been here. You guys all coming back, and then we have
coming back too.
Well, Z was in charge of gameplay from the very first one.
Has always been my boss.
So
Z came from 2015.
We have Naughty Dog guys coming over. Like
that was the other thing. The narrative on this project is at a god tier level. I've never, when I was working on Modern, are they here?
He's right back there.
Oh, he's back. Sorry,
he's crying. Actually,
occluded. But I would say, like when I was doing Modern Warfare 1, I was like, God, this story is like, I don't totally understand this because I had to do all the end cutscenes. This doesn't really make that much sense.
Is this Lost?
And then it came out, and a lot of people said, "What a great story!" I went, "Really? Okay." And then Modern Warfare 2 came out, and I had pulled that duty again, where I had to do all the like end cutscene stuff, and I was tying stuff, the levels together with imagery, and that story really threw me for a loop. Really was trying to catch up with it, but this, I watched the end of it. I highly suggest if you get to play the game, you play it all the way to the end and see play all the way through single player, and the end of the game is so f***ing awesome, and it's great storytelling, and it has such a great payoff.
It is something that could have really, really gone.
It could have gone really bad.
These guys come back in, right, and they've got so much energy, and like, okay. I mean, I remember like one of the first things Jeff says, he goes, I always wanted to go back and do a couple of things. And he goes, I suppose it's too late now because they had left and make some changes into a TU on Modern Warfare 2. And it's like, dude, that's just leave that in the past, But they had all of these ideas and thoughts and things like that, like, okay, and energy and obviously know-how and credibility. But then you've also got like Jacob and Taylor and some of these guys who've been at Naughty Dog working on story stuff. And I remember the first times when like Z started to work with Jacob and Taylor and stuff like that, and you guys started working with Taylor. I was like, okay, this is gonna be interesting how this works.
We had to find
and famously, it really worked out wonderfully because you guys had a tremendous respect for what they brought in a narrative experiential zone, and they had tremendous respect for what you guys had done, and like one of their pillars was Modern Warfare, and so it ended up being wonderful how they ended up working together. But I do remember holding my breath on that one.
Well, you did take us to a gun sight shooting school, and we all had live rounds, and so eventually, after a week, we got along.
Yeah, we all went to gunfighting school.
Yeah, we had to line up in formation, and the line one had live loaded ammunition, had to pivot and fire at a target.
Yeah.
And then line two had to do the same exact thing,
but not pull the trigger.
No, they had us the first day. They trained us all with like draws. And so where we were, in the town we were in Arizona too, from that point on.
Oh yeah, we didn't.
You wear guns on you, loaded.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys tell you, I wore mine. I put mine on at the airport. I had it on the whole trip.
The liquor store guy looked at him a little weird, but even when we're on the school grounds, you know, they like, you can dismantle your weapon and unload it if you want. And then they like really look down on you to do it.
Yeah, like if you want to be a wuss.
So we're walking around with live guns on our hips all day, and then we're sitting. Funny story. We're sitting down on this.
It was after one of the training sessions. We came back for lunch. Everybody was just chilling, sitting down at the other end of the walkway. I went to the restroom, came back, and I'm walking towards them.
Yeah, we're all in line. Yeah. We're here on this deck of concrete, and Griggs is walking back.
So my holster, for some reason, lost a screw. And I'm walking like a cowboy, like shaking my hips. And then all of a sudden, my gun falls out of my holster onto the ground, and the barrel is pointing down.
But all we hear is metal on concrete, and we knew immediately what it was, and we're all like,
everybody goes, oh. And I'm like, and they're like, don't handle your weapons while you're not on a range. So I was like, okay, if I pick it up, I'm the only black guy in this. And they're like, he has a gun! So I was like, I don't know what I should do. I was like, maybe I should pick it up.
I dropped my gun.
Yeah. And luckily, I was able to.
It was a really good
cool
place.
experience.
Yeah, it was a great experience. But
I think we burnt through 800 rounds apiece. Like,
it's
crazy.
We went through like full on kill houses.
Don't tell Activision that.
No,
it was a good time. But it was also
they were
good.
very uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
They were very uncomfortable.
I mean, that and a bunch of other experiences. But we had some friction in the beginning, and we had to find our way. But I think it worked out because everybody, they wanted to.
Everybody's coming from a good place, and everybody just has different styles of.
We just have to learn each other's ways.
Thing in life where it's like you either choose to be a dick or don't be a dick.
It's fun. It's
It
fun
can happen in traffic, or it can happen at work with people that you work with.
Project is king.
Yeah, don't be a dick.
Mm.
Be it's also
it is amazing
like, be
when
a
you just
professional.
stick to content. It's just about the content. You always remember and remind everybody it's just about the content. People tend to
Yeah. I've seen people on the art team that when I first got here, they were doing a particular part of the art, and I wouldn't have even hired them at that point. I would have went, ugh, yeah, whatever. That same person today is doing the type of work that I would want like 3 more of them. That just incredible, unbelievable. Like it's incredible to watch someone start out that way. You start working with them, and they had the thick skin to go through the process of, that's not a good enough. Try this. Talk to this person. Talk to it wasn't just like giving feedback to someone. It was encouraging them to talk to their peers more, because that was another thing here. It's like,
don't rely on emails.
Getting everybody to talk to each other, and don't communicate through an email. Get up and put a face on the thing that you're advocating for.
That was an interesting thing you guys brought, because we were in all the Call of Duty teams that work on it, there's so many people. It becomes so like Jira and electronic focused in all the different facilities for it, where it ends up being a bit of the esprit de corps for communications like that. And the first thing these guys are like, what the f*** is this? Get up and go talk to the guy. And they really broke that down a lot. And even though we still have a lot of people working on these games, these guys are all like, no, just talk to the person, as opposed to like a Jira or something like that.
It's crucial.
I love the comparison of it's like breaking up with 60 girlfriends. Is it hard not to have hard feelings after that?
No, there's absolutely zero hard feelings.
Oh, really?
We love those guys. I mean, half those guys were at my wedding, and it's a small industry, and a lot of stuff happens, but it's I think some people can kind of not disassociate work and life, and no, I mean, we were super jazzed for all their stuff coming out, and
I thought Apex was brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And what was really weird about, I don't know if you guys had the same reaction, but maybe you were there longer than I left like February 2017 so I had seen nothing on. I didn't know anything about Apex. Even when you said about
they hadn't started
the
it.
Scavenger character that I did for Titanfall 1, when I saw it in the game, I was like, whoa, wow. And I think what was incredible about it was seeing a game that sort of had the DNA of something I was working on, and it came from that universe. But seeing it completely realized in a way I never thought possible, and it was like I actually had this moment where I got to see something really fresh for the first time and have a real honest reaction to it. And the way that they did the way they marketed it, the way they unveiled it I was just sitting here going, wow.
Yeah, that was
I was so
that's
we were
amazing.
So busy here working on our stuff that I hadn't played Titanfall 2 in a long time, and then jumping in and like I knew all the weapons and felt all the geo, and I was like, I felt like familiar. I was like, this feels so nice. I'm at home, and I did really well until everybody learned the game, and then I got killed. So.
There was no moment from Ready the Studio we announced where you were going where they're like, what the f***? Are you kidding me?
Oh yeah,
there's a bunch of mixed reactions.
Totally, I did actually. I made sure to go and say goodbye to every single person in the studio the day that I left. And I did a quick exit because I didn't want to linger around and make...
I think you missed some because they're in meetings, but...
Yeah, there was a couple people I missed, but I tried to
everybody.
Get to every... I missed maybe 2 or 3 people. But...
I did the same.
Yeah, it was like breaking up with like 60 plus, people but there were hurt feelings. There were people that were really shocked and surprised.
But it's like 12 years with people, It's, you kind of have to say, it's not you, it's me. I need to grow. I need to kind of.
Well, you have different interests. I mean, I really honestly feel that I spent as much time as I possibly could there. Same with these guys too. I think they feel the same way, and I felt like I gave it a really good go, and I gave it. I never held back. Like I was there for about 7 years almost, and I never pulled any. I always went for it as hard as I possibly could, and I just got to a point where I was like, I want something different. And so for me, I could see the trajectory that they were on, and it just wasn't something I wanted to try something new. So that's what it ended up being, and that was surprising to some people, and there was a period of people not completely understanding my reasoning and then not talking you just get that when you don't work with someone anymore.
It's an emotional, it is just work and it is personal, but we spend so much time at work that you make these relationships with these people, and then it kind of is a little personal in a little ways.
It's just like breaking up with a girlfriend, right? Yeah. You have that person that you see every day and you talk to every day, and then you don't have 60 or 70 of them. It's a different thing.
The only animosity I have is my product has to be better than yours. That's it.
That's the drive.
We're insanely competitive.
Competition. That's it. Friendly competition.
The competitive thing I think is good for everybody all around. And if you don't have if you don't have an equal and opposite force that you're really pushing against, it just doesn't create that fire to do better. And I think that's all around,
Yeah, the reason I ended up coming back, I grew up kind of my dad was in the Marines for 30 years, and so just the, modern military things holds a pretty dear spot. So
yeah,
I think we left with a lot more, stuff that we wanted, more stories we wanted to tell and more things we wanted to do, and I think
was it bundled up at all with acquisition? How does that timeline work out?
I didn't even know they were going to do that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
I had this really weird thing where I just keep leaving franchises and right before it takes off.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to do it,
Yeah, I'll keep doing it.
I love doing it. I love I like to tee up the ball and say, hey, you guys got this. I'm out.
One of these days, Call of Duty will take off.
I'm hoping that Call of Duty does okay. And then right before, we'll see what happens.
Just in the interest of time.
Yes.
Got Jacob.
Yes, I'm sorry, Jacob.
Oh, yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much.
All good.
Hey, that's a little bit different, but thanks for sticking around and listening to the entire interview, everybody. And that's it for the overall episode of the Game Informer Show podcast. Be sure to tune in next Thursday. We'll have another new episode waiting for you. Bye, everybody.
Da 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 da.